This is the Aaron Day Show, Season 3, Episode 15. We are 20 minutes from going live. While we count down, hit like, share the stream, pull a friend in. Every share is a crack in the wall. Tonight is day 2026. The site is day2026.com. 4 demands, 4 receipts, 4 pages of fight. I have 4 music videos teed up for the next 20 minutes, one wired to each demand. They are not background music. They are the case made in 3 minutes flat. Stay with me. Demand 1 is up first. Volume up is Demand 1. Free the crypto political prisoners, 7 Americans, federal cages, on bail awaiting trial, or silenced under coerced settlement. Ian Freeman, Roman Sterlingoff, Keon Rodriguez, William Lonergan Hill, Roman Storm, Roger Ver, Ray Youssef. The alleged crime is the same in every case: writing software, running peer-to-peer services, refusing to surveil their own users. Code is speech. Building freedom tools is not a crime. On day 1, Trump pardoned Ross Ulbricht. He pardoned 1. 7 remain. Finish the job. This next track is Do You Hear the 7 Calling? Listen for the names.
Still, do you hear the promise breaking on the president's hill? I ran the embassy in Keene, where the small bills changed their hands. 8 years for digital cash, for laws written before the networks stand. Do you hear the 7 calling, calling from their cages still? Free Ian Freeman, free them all, pardon them all, before the bell. 50 million and a gag order. The judge took my voice with my gold. Roger Ver in the Spanish hold. The bill is not paid, the truth still untold. Do you hear the 7 calling, calling from their cages still? Free Roger Ver, free them all, pardon them all, before the bell. Sterlingoff stood on the math, 12 and a half on a black box. Roman Storm wrote the contract, 40 years on the table. Keon built the wallet, Christmas Eve, Morgantown. William wrote privacy at 67, 4 years from Lisbon. Ray banked the unbanked, schools in his name. Deported! Do you hear the 7 calling, calling from their cages still? Free them all, pardon them all, before the bell. Code is free speech, said the director. The war is over, said the acting AG. But the cages stayed locked when the speeches ended, and the world watched the promise become a lie. Senate 52-49, the House about to flip. End the war or lose Congress, pardon them all, before the bell. You pardon Ross, the 7 are still owed. America won't leave the world in crypto. If it cages its innovators. Do you hear the 7 calling, calling from their cages still? Free them all, pardon them all, before the bell. The code outlives the warden. The code outlives the warden.
Demand 2. Fire Howard Lutnick. The Secretary of Commerce of the United States is supposed to serve the American people. He is serving his sons. Receipts. Cantor Fitzgerald, the firm Howard Lutnick sold to his 4 adult children, custodies $122 billion of Tether's U.S. Treasury reserves. The day after the sale, the Lutnick Family Dynasty Trust borrowed against Tether, secured by all assets. The Genius Act, which Lutnick championed, explicitly exempts Tether from the audits every other stablecoin issuer faces. On February 11th of 2026, Lutnick admitted under oath he visited Little St. James on December 23, 2012. 4 years after Epstein's conviction, he handed Trump the tariff chart at the Rose Garden on April 2nd, 2025. Cantor's revenue grew 25% that year. These conflicts are not a gray area. They are disqualifying. Remove him before he writes another rule. This one is called Lutnick. Roll it.
1. Gather round, lads. Gather round, lasses. I've a tale of the commerce man's crooked asses. Howard wrote the number 4 times too high, 0.25 when the truth was a mile away in the sky. His boy at the Cantor counter with a grin, buying up the refund rights while the paper was thin. 20 cents on the dollar. Daddy says hold, while the son's in the back room raking in the gold. Lutnick wrote it 4 times high. Lutnick watched the country cry. Brandon bought the rights on the sly. Cantor took the payday pie. Raise a glass and move your money. Move your money, move your money. Raise a glass and move your money. To the carnival, goodbye. Ruskin wrote the letter. Wade and wrote another. Warren lit the fire. Ackman pulled the cover. Wired showed the memo. The scholars showed the math. The Supreme Court rang the bell. 6-3 for the wrath. 180 billion to the people they come. But the Cantor boys were waiting when the deal was done. Transfer to the sons, the divestiture a sham. The house was still a house and the crowd still a scam. Lutnick wrote it 4 times high. Lutnick watched the country cry. Brandon bought the rights on the sly. Cantor took the payday pie. Raise a glass and move your money. Move your money, move your money. Raise a glass and move your money. To the carnival, goodbye. They'll tell you it was legal. They'll tell you it was clean. They'll tell you divestiture was everything it seemed. But the platform's still the same, and the family's still the name, and the terminal still clears what the Cantor boys arrange. I pulled my money from the bank last Tuesday, put it in a credit union down the bay, buying bread from the baker where the names are owners. Coffee down in Zano where the grid ain't theirs. Neighbor runs the mesh, Co-op runs the bread, building parallel systems while the carnival is dead. Raise a pint to the exit, raise a pint to the door. Howard keeps the carnival, I won't be there no more. Lutnick wrote it 4 times high. Lutnick watched the country cry. Brandon bought the rights on the sly. Cantor took the payday pie. Raise a glass and move your money. Move your money, move your money. Raise a glass and move your money. To the carnival, goodbye.
And 3, kill the Clarity Act. Don't let the name fool you. House Resolution 3633 and its Senate companion are not regulatory clarity. They are the rail, the platform, the surveillance grid that real-world asset tokenization is going to run on. The largest financial surveillance regime since the Patriot Act, written for the lobbyists, sold to a Congress that has never read a smart contract. We do not need clarity. We need them to leave it alone. Next track is Trap in Disguise. The title says it. Listen, the
I woke up to silence, but the war had begun. They froze my account, said I'd done something wrong. Wasn't no crime, just living free. Now the system got a chain on me. They took my savings, my future, my land, with a single code line and a government hand. Said it was safety, said it was green, but all I see is tyranny behind the screen. This ain't innovation, it's a trap in disguise. You'll own nothing, be watched all your life. Genius ain't freedom, reality ain't clear. It's a cage they built while we cheer. I believed in the promise, the man with a plan, but the same old swamp just changed its brand. He banned the front door, opened the back, signed the bills that launched the final attack. This ain't innovation, it's a trap in disguise. You'll own nothing, be watched all your life. Genius ain't freedom, reality ain't clear. It's a cage they built while we cheer. Your gold, your guns, your voice, your name, they'll digitize it all, then shift the blame. Palantirizing AI chains, freedom dying slow in patriotic flames. This ain't about safety, it's control in disguise. With your ID, your face, your tears, your time, they wrapped it in stars, sold it with pride. But freedom's bleeding out from the inside. DEFCON 1, and they call it peace, but I still got breath, I
Demand 4, end the draft. They campaigned on no new wars. Then they bombed Iran. They sit on the so-called Board of Peace. Then they profit from the rebuild. Barron Trump stands 1 inch too tall to be drafted. Your sons, your daughters. They register or face 5 years and a $250,000 fine. Repeal the Military Selective Service Act. Burn the database. No human being is the property of the state. And here's the through line. Every war the United States has fought in the last 100 years was funded by debt issued in dollars. The dollar is the draft. The dollar is the bomb. The dollar is the empty cage your kid sits in, waiting for orders. You don't end the war machine without ending the money that pays for it. This last track is Ditch the Dollar. That's the campaign. That's the website. Day2026.com, ditchthedollar.com. Go sign the pledge tonight. Roll it.
Another head hangs lowly. A child is slowly taken. She braided up her hair that morning. 7 years old and forsaken. The missile found the classroom. Row 3 seconds from the door. Her mother cries into the evening. The same cry she heard before. But you see, it's not me, it's not what's right beneath. Entering my daughter in that chair in a school across the sea. With their tanks and their bombs and their drones and their coins and their sons and their sons in your head they are funding with your dollar, with your dollar. Well, it's the stock price hit a record. The sun sold 10,000 drones. The draft is on the table now. But the tall boy stays at home. 6'8", you go to war. 6'9", you're free. 1 inch between the body bag and the boy who holds the key. But you see, it's not me, it's not my family. His son is 1 inch from the draft and a million miles from the infantry. ditch your door. Another head hangs lowly. A child is slowly taken. She braided up her hair that morning. Ditch the dollar. Bring her home.
That's the 4 demands. That's the case. That's why we're doing this. Day2026.com. Sign every petition. Share every demand. Bring a friend. We're going live right now. Welcome to the Aaron Day Show, Season 3, Episode 15. Let's get into it. All right, there we go. That's better. So anyway, welcome back. Season 3, Episode 15. It's been a while. I've been traveling. Actually, spent quite a bit of time last week at the Bitcoin conference. Can you hear me now? Okay, good. I was at the Bitcoin conference of all places, which you might not you might not expect me to be talking about having been to the Bitcoin conference, but was going to advocate for our crypto prisoners of war, which ties into tonight's episode. And, unfortunately, we were hoping there was no joke, there was a panel at the Bitcoin conference entitled Ending the War on Bitcoin. And the speakers on this panel were Kash Patel, director of the FBI, and Todd Blanche, acting AG. And a lot of us were fairly excited and thought there was a pretty high probability that that would be the moment when Trump was going to announce some pardons. Because the event was huge, 40,000 people at this event. And there were a lot of activists there holding signs, Free Ian, Free Samurai, Free Roman, Free the Romans. And, there were a lot of people throughout the event carrying these signs and, actually even got, kicked out for a short period of time at the beginning. But you would have thought that this would have been the chance and this would have been the opportunity. And unfortunately, they did absolutely nothing. They lied for however long it was. I actually sat through it. It was painful to even sit through. So tonight I'm talking about the campaign, Day 2026, because it's time to move into war mode. There's a lot going on right now where I'm kind of moving into a different mode. I'd say for the last couple of years, let's say we've been in development, right? Developing all these websites, which I encourage everybody to either attend the Enemies of the State event at the Libertarian Convention or watch it. We're going to be live streaming it. This event, this Enemies of the State event, I think in conjunction with my race is the best shot that these guys have at getting pardons. And I'll explain why. And I didn't want it to come down to this. I was kind of hoping maybe the right thing would be done for other reasons. But, in the end, that's really not how Trump works. And, if you look at what's going on with Bitcoin, just in the last couple of days, we have everybody saying, oh, we're going to sign the Clarity Act by July the 4th. And people saying things like, we're going in the next 2 weeks, we're going to announce more about the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve. You have 40,000 people at this event, all of these talks, all of this bullshit, all of the hype. They're going to push, and people are celebrating, the largest surveillance bill in the history of the United States, which is what the Clarity Act is. And they're talking about using taxpayer theft. Well, actually, they may not even be doing that. When they roll out the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve, they may just decide to say, hey, look, we're just going to do more civil asset forfeiture, because that's actually the policy that they currently have. So they're trying to buy off the Bitcoin community by saying, hey, we're going to be able to dump Bitcoin and Bitcoin treasury companies on boomers and people that don't know any better if we pass Clarity Act. Sure, it's the biggest surveillance act ever, but we're going to be able to dump Bitcoin onto the unsuspecting public through funds and things where people are multiple levels removed, or Bitcoin treasury companies, which has to be the biggest Ponzi scheme I've ever heard. But the trade-off is the most surveillance. So is the Bitcoin community going to cheer on surveillance and going to cheer on using taxpayer money theft through civil asset forfeiture to increase the price of their Bitcoin? Or are they going to stand for the developers and the advocates who are the most effective people ever at promoting the use of Bitcoin as peer-to-peer digital cash, or the developers who built privacy tools to make Bitcoin private? Which side are you going to support? Because if the community is going to get bought off for this, then we have a serious problem. And by the way, I suspect we do have a serious problem, which is why this race, and I'm going to be ratcheting this up, and I will tell you, it makes a lot of people really uncomfortable, which is why I'm going to be crystal clear about what the race is about and what it's not. I don't want people donating money or supporting thinking, oh, it'd be great, Aaron, if you went to Washington, D.C., you could straighten things out. Nobody can fix Washington, D.C. No one. The system is completely broken. The only thing, if I got elected, which is a long shot, which isn't even the point of this race, would be to expose both sides and the lobbyists and to try to slow things down, because right now what we have is technocracy moving at full speed with zero friction. I mean, again, if Harris had won or whatever, they tried to push a centralized CBDC, people would at least be upset and protesting and doing whatever. We have a situation right now where I'm going to conferences where people are cheering on surveillance legislation. It is the biggest, and I think by and large they don't know better, but I mean it's turned into a cult. So people are jumping out of the frying pan and into the fire, which I heard somebody use that phrase, and I thought that was actually a pretty accurate way to sum up what's going on. And so if you've listened to the show, I've done episodes on why America 1.0 is over. You can't vote your way out. And here's the interesting thing. So I started out as a serial entrepreneur, got burned by the government, and then became a political activist when I moved to New Hampshire. And I thought you could fix the political system. I thought that the way you could fix the political system was through the Republican Party, by pushing liberty within the Republican Party. Spent a lot of time doing this. I've run super PACs, run the Republican Liberty Caucus of New Hampshire. I've been on actual Republican boards. I've run as a libertarian and independent. I've supported, my wife and I both supported hundreds of candidates who have actually gotten elected in New Hampshire. And it's all turned out to be bullshit. In the end, the people that you support, they once they get into office, they go back on everything that they got elected to do. And then they tell you you got to work within the system and everything else. And, the results speak for themselves. You can go to technocracyatlas.com and you can see a map since 1973 that shows the growth of technocracy in all 50 states and in 192 countries. And then you can actually sign up for a free, send your email in for free, and I'll give you a PDF with a full document that explains what's going on, the technocracy in each of those areas. And this has been very popular. A lot of these posts went viral until I think X caught on, so it's now been shadow banned. But the one that we did on Ohio absolutely went viral. Had a gubernatorial candidate on there, had the CEO, Palmer Luckey, on there. A lot of people engaging in this because we can talk about theoretically what technocracy is all we want. People aren't going to pay a lot of attention, but you start talking about, oh, here are the data centers that are going in. Here's what Peter Thiel's doing in your state. Here are the overlapping investments, and here's what's going on. Here are the tax credits. Here's all of the cronyism going on related to technocracy. They don't even need to know that it's technocracy. They already don't like technocracy. They just don't know why. And they don't know what the label is. So anyway, I got a little diverted there, but I got into politics, realized that you're not going to vote your way out. Realized this the hard way. I've described this in a lot of ways, and then you might be saying, well, here you are running for U.S. Senate, and this was actually after running for president in 2024. And the reason why is I exited politics, and I'm like, these guys were right. Ian Freeman was right. Roger Ver was right. Ian was like, hey, Ian was a big proponent. It is a big proponent of civil disobedience and creating alternative systems and using Bitcoin. He was one of the first. He was the first ever radio host in the entire world to talk about Bitcoin in 2010. And then, did all ATMs and onboarded merchants and everything else. And then Roger Ver learned about Bitcoin from Ian and Mark on Free Talk Live, and then became Bitcoin Jesus, and literally was the first investor in the ecosystem. People, this industry would not be here if it weren't for these two guys. And I'm like, hey, you know what? They were right. What an idiot I was thinking we could change things politically. So I exit politics, get rid of my personal bank account, go entirely into alternative currencies. And in fact, not only just alternative currencies, but I was looking at tokenization, not the tokenization that we have now that everybody's talking about with BlackRock, but the idea of, hey, you could tokenize and trade things without third parties. You could get rid of Wall Street. You could get rid of these third parties. And that's where I spent all of my time. And then lo and behold, what happened? The people that were the most effective at promoting these parallel systems were arrested. So it started with Ian's sentencing hearing, which my wife and I sat, and it was devastating watching that, even though government sucks and is trying to shut down freedom, and that the deck is stacked in these federal cases anyway. You very quickly start to learn that they don't have any interest in justice at all. They just want a win rate. And in fact, the people in the Department of Justice are trying to get a win rate so that they can then leave the government sector and then become defense attorneys and charge $1,000, $1,500 an hour. It's just a disgusting, absolutely disgusting system. And then Roger gets arrested, and now here we are. I ran for president, wrote this book warning people about CBDCs, warning people that there was going to be a crackdown on crypto. I dropped everything that I was doing to warn people. And now we're having another enemies of the state event. And instead of having a couple of people, we have 7 people, 8 people that are enemies of the state from crypto. It's expanded massively. I think there are 13 total enemies of the state that we're going to be advocating for with talks. And again, it's the party there, but also the live stream. We're going to try to reach hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people. The war on crypto didn't end, it expanded. So then I realized, look, yes, I could go work on parallel systems, but if I'm particularly successful at it, I'm just going to get arrested. So now I'm balancing my time. Now my time is 1/3 spent educating people about the risks of technocracy, 1/3 working on parallel systems and privacy coins and Zano and Freedom Dollar and so on and so forth. And then 1/3 right now of the time spending on trying to advocate for these crypto prisoners of war, because we have a limited window of opportunity. I'm going to be very candid about what's happening. Trump only responds to leverage. There are a lot of people that don't want to hear this. There are a lot of people that say we have to be nice to Trump. Being fucking nice to Trump is not going to free a single person. Trump responds to leverage. His whole thing is the art of the deal. Look at how many, I was talking to somebody today and he said literally Trump they've measured it, has declared that we've beaten Iran 31 times. That conflict isn't over. It's all a negotiation. It's all about leverage. It's all about either what can he make from it personally, or, and by the way, the only reason Ross Ulbricht is free is because he needed the votes. If he didn't get the votes, if he didn't capture RFK Jr., if he didn't lie to everybody or whatever he needed to do to get the votes, he'd be in prison right now. He was facing 100 years in prison. So they were all deals. None of it was transferable. None of it's he's a nice guy. None of it is this is a principle that he's based on. Everything is a deal. Well, here's the deal. The deal is this. It's not going very well. He's going to lose the House, and the Senate is now 50-50. Literally, the prediction markets are 50-50. And the state of New Hampshire is one of the toss-ups. In fact, the state of New Hampshire, the Republican in the polls, where I'm not included yet in the polling, the Republican John E. Sununu is down by only 1 point to the Democrat. As a result, the main Senate PAC has said they're going to put $17 million into this race if Sununu wins the primary. $17 million, if you look at it, I'm pretty sure it is the highest amount of money per capita that entire Senate fund is putting money into. Now, who funds the Senate PAC? Miriam Adelson. That name ought to ring a bell. If you can go and look up the super PAC, the Senate Defense Fund or whatever it is, and I'll certainly be sharing more information about it. All of the technocrats, all of the people that we're complaining about are funding John E. Sununu. And they're going to put, and last time when I did this, they lost $100 million, and they will put more than that into this race. The entire control of the U.S. Senate may come down to New Hampshire. So that is leverage. And I did this in 2016, and it did cost them the seat. And that's it. This is an opportunity. I don't know how long the leverage is going to last. Maybe circumstances change, but right now, this is something. And I'm going to talk tonight about what the campaign is all about. I don't have to run. But the issue is this. If I get on the ballot, the Republican's going to lose. So I'll get into the details on that, but I did want to give a preface on this. I am pissed off. I'm pissed off because I will tell you that, again, I'm in war mode now. We are running out of time. They're about to pass the Clarity Act. Palantir is running wild everywhere with surveillance. Digital IDs, again, look at the Technocracy maps. I wanted to put that information together there to show people how Technocracy has grown over the last 50 years and how it's grown in whatever country or whatever state you're in. Because when you're in it, sometimes it seems like, well, that's off in the distance. It's not off in the distance. We're almost completely captured already. And now you can see granularly what's going on. If they pass the Clarity Act, we're in trouble because that means everything you own is headed towards being tokenized in a way that governments and other third parties can program, track, and censor. It is how you own nothing. And I'm looking online and people are celebrating this. And yeah, this is pro-crypto. Nobody has read the bill. Trust me, I've asked people. I've had conversations with people. You can see me on X. I'll actually say, I'll go. Somebody will write a popular tweet and I'll say, this is the largest surveillance bill. No one will refute this because all of the traffic is fake and everything is bots. And not a single person has actually defended the Clarity Act. No one. It's all fake. It's all manufactured. I have given the breakdowns on the website. We're going to go through all of it, but that is it. This is one of the last things that they need to push out Technocracy because this is how they capture our assets. So this is serious. The reason these crypto prisoners are so important is that these are the heroes that have been effective at promoting voluntary exchange. These are the people that are trying to safeguard our privacy. They actually didn't do anything wrong. Every case, I'm going to have Lauren Rodriguez on next week. Next Thursday at 6 p.m. And I've been watching all of her interviews and everything else. And this is just, every one of these is horrible. And I know you may be listening to this, you may be sick of, almost every week for the past several weeks. And then moving into the enemies of the state party, it's been lawyers or people that are in prison and everything else. And it's devastating. And it's devastating because it's unjust and because we know why they're being targeted. But the more devastating part is to understand that this is the standard process for the Department of Justice. Every one of these cases is something that the general public, when you tell them any of the individual stories, it sounds ridiculous. People's response is, oh, this must be a one-off, or this guy must be making it up. I'm working on right now, I've downloaded all of the public legal filings for all of these different cases. And I am using AI to put them all in a timeline because I think that there was a very, very concerted effort at a very specific point in time to shut this down. I mean, obviously, I talked about that with respect to CBDCs, but this also includes the tokenization of equities. This is what happened to Patrick Byrne with T0. It's what happened to Chris Horlacher with his company at around 2019. And we're talking about a coordination of Five Eyes. We're talking about, the CIA. We're talking about the equivalents in Canada and the UK and so forth. This has been a coordinated attack because the technocrats do not want people engaging in voluntary trade outside of their control. It is a cornerstone of the ideology. So I'm going to jump into this. I encourage you to visit day2026.com. I'm going to put the screenshot up here, and then at the end, I'm going to pull up the site where I'm going to go through the actual pages, because a lot of what I'm going to go through is content that's on the website. But I've completely rebranded it, changed the colors, got rid of the black background and everything else, and tried to change up the branding, but added a lot of content and added these four demands. So I don't have to run. My goal is still not to run. So if you're thinking about this, my goal is to say this, look, this is leverage. And all I'm asking is for the administration to do and Congress to do what they committed to do. There's nothing that I'm doing here that's out of the ordinary. These aren't like weird demands. And if you bought Trump, and look, I've talked to people, I voted for Trump 3 times and everything else, and almost everyone now, whether they say it publicly, privately, they're saying this was a big mistake this last time. And I'm talking about the 4 demands, and the 4 demands aren't certainly everything that I'm unhappy with. That would be too long of a list to even describe. They've gone the wrong way on everything, on war, on Doge, on every aspect of whatever, the war on crypto. Everything has been an inversion. But I'm focusing on the things that I think are the most important in terms of slowing technocracy and freeing the people that are the most effective on the planet at promoting parallel systems. And just as a reminder of what happened, I encourage you to look it up. You can research what happened in 2016. I ran as an independent for U.S. Senate, specifically to cost Kelly Ayotte the race. It was a similar situation to what we're going through now. I told people Kelly Ayotte got involved with local politics because I didn't care about Washington, D.C. I moved to New Hampshire to become part of the Free State Project. And a lot of the mentality, even today, still within the Free State Project is it's screw D.C., just protect New Hampshire. But the problem with that is when more and more of your budget comes from the federal government, when you've given over health care to the federal government, when you witness even in New Hampshire what happened with COVID policies, like this is kind of, people have resigned to this kind of failure. Well, they're going to just take half of our money and they're going to implement the surveillance state, but we're going to be the freest plantation in the slave colony. I don't. That doesn't actually have to be that way. You can actually engage in politics in a way to kind of mess it up, and you can be a little bit strategic about it rather than just say, well, I'm going to vote for the Republicans because they're less bad, and then try to become the relatively least enslaved state. Doesn't even seem like much of a strategy. But in any event, 10 years ago, I was trying to stop the encroachment of the federal government in healthcare through Medicaid expansion. And by and large, the Republicans were overwhelmingly against Medicaid expansion, which was a function of Obamacare. Overwhelmingly. I mean, I would go to town committees and county committees, and they would sign unanimous resolutions in opposition to this. And I drilled down and I found out it was only a couple of people pushing it. And they were pushing it in the Senate, and they have ties to DC and ties to lobbyists and everything else. And in the end, it was being pushed to help Kelly Ayotte get reelected to the U.S. Senate. I'm like, if you're going to impose this massive federal healthcare mandate on New Hampshire just to get this federal candidate reelected, then I'm going to cost that candidate. I'm going to stop that behavior. So I ran as an independent, but I gave people a year of notice. I talked to the chairman of the party. I talked to the former governor. Everybody knew what was happening because it wasn't like, oh yeah, my point was to say, you're not following the number one plank in the Republican Party platform for the state, which is to oppose Obamacare in all of its forms. That was the number one thing in the party platform. So I'm trying to hold you accountable to the thing that the party claims is the number one hill to die on. So I gave them this notice and they did it anyway. And there were more steps involved and everything else. And so I ended up costing her the race. It was the most expensive Senate race per capita in the history of the United States. I got 17,742 votes. Kelly Ayotte lost by 1,000 votes. And I, frankly, some of my votes were from people that I know who some of them are. They're people that are elected in office now and everything else. They sent me pictures of their ballots, and they were mostly Republicans because there was also a libertarian in the race. So there's no doubt, undoubtedly, I cost her this race. But then what happened? Well, I would have thought, hey, we've just shown something here. We have shown that you can utilize the fact you can't win as a third party, but you can use the third party as a way to exert leverage over the two parties and to hold your party accountable. I thought this was a great model, and this was a way to actually stop and break the lobbyists and all the special interests. Well, unfortunately, the people locally just decided, oh, well, that just seemed like it was outlandish or whatever. We're going to just now partner with these same people. So, I mean, that's the point where I'm like, all right, I exited politics because people who I'd supported to run for state office, who'd signed a pledge saying they were against Medicaid expansion and everything else, now today are co-sponsors of legislation making it permanent, making the Obamacare expansion permanent. So I'm like, all right, I'm completely done. Even at the local level, because people are not willing to do the hard work. They're not willing to do what is required. If you really wanted to make New Hampshire a place where the protection of life, liberty, and property was the maximum role of government. But then again, we got into this situation, and now the people promoting parallel systems have been imprisoned or waiting sentencing, so on and so forth. So I'm like, okay, I know this works. And it turns out 10 years later that this race is even more important. I actually threatened to there's a Breitbart article where I said I'm going to cost Kelly at the Senate and cost Republicans control of the U.S. Senate. I didn't right away, but I did, this was a 2016 election, but from 2020 to 2022, Kelly Ayotte being there actually cost Republicans control of the Senate. Now, this pissed everybody off. I was in lawsuits. I was in litigation for 5.5 years, $270 million worth of litigation. I had threats of physical violence, mind you, after the election, primarily because people didn't believe I would do it or it would be successful. And so then after the fact, everybody's like, oh, well, this was a vanity run and everything else. No, I didn't want to run. In fact, we collected signatures from someone else. I'm never the guy that was supposed to be the candidate. I'm the guy that is, running the organization, doing the recruiting and doing the fundraising. I was never supposed to be a candidate. I'm not a mainstream personality. And I mean, I don't hesitate to say that. And I'm nor am I trying to be. But no one else would do it. Well, so here we are in this situation again. It's tied 50-50. And the stakes for Trump are this. If he loses the House and the Senate, they're going to impeach him. And in fact, if things keep on going, Raskin and others have already begun to draft the documents, but this isn't like before. He's done some seriously bad shit where I actually think there's going to be Republican support on some of it. So this is real leverage. So again, I want to be perfectly clear. I don't want people donating or, because people are like, oh yeah, you do a great job. No, I'm being very clear that you can't fix DC, but we have to slow it down and we have to do everything that we can to free these prisoners of war. That's my statement. I'm like, oh, and then if we do this, we're going to be able to reform things. I've done plenty of podcasts on this. Happy to talk about it in greater detail. But then from there, the next step, the next place people go is, oh, you're going to cost Republicans control. Aren't you worried about this? Would you rather have the Democrats? This is the line that I get every time. Look at what's going on. Would I rather have the Democrat? It doesn't matter, but I will tell you, we are actually worse off in any case with complete majority rule of either party. And this is factually true. You can go and look up the history of government spending and everything else. And when it's one party rule, it doesn't matter which party, you get more spending, you get more war, you get it's so there really isn't a difference between the two. But in this case, I would argue, and again, a lot of my free state friends that have bought into well, I guess we just can't do anything about DC. We might as well just pack it in and support the Republican to try to curry some favor, and then maybe we'll be enslaved less frequently kind of mindset. And from the very beginning, when I started doing this, I realized that even in New Hampshire, you have two big political parties, one on the right, one on the left, the Sununu family on the right and the Shaheen family on the left. It's important to break that. In whatever state you're in, you probably have the same thing. You probably have some political dynasty family or whatever, where it's like multiple generations of the same person, and everybody's like, this guy's a moron. Why is he in there? But it's brand name recognition, and then it turns out they have all these relationships with Washington, D.C. That is what has to get cut off, because it influences your state. And what I'm going to be able to do is prove this to everyone. I realized, I thought I'd do this. Hey, you can't vote your way out, and we do a podcast on it. I'm like, no, I'll show you. This is why when you dig into the Technocracy Atlas maps and some other things I'm going to put out, you can now trace this. You can follow the money. You can see one political dynasty can destroy a state in perpetuity. So the Sununu family has been around in this state for a long time, since the 1980s. John H. Sununu, the son of the current guy running for U.S. Senate, he's been the governor. He was the chief of staff for George H.W. Bush, and he had to resign or was fired for mismanagement of funds or something along those lines. But then one of his other sons, Chris Sununu, was just the governor here in New Hampshire for multiple terms, and John E. Sununu used to be senator. In fact, he was senator immediately prior to me moving to New Hampshire. And at the time in 2008, people were like, hey, your senators are these libertarian senators. And, they would, and I used to be a dork. I'd watch C-SPAN and everything else. And I'd watch them on there, and they seem like they're fairly libertarianish. Then the 2008 financial crisis happened. And originally they voted against the Wall Street bailout of TARP. And that lasted for like 24 hours because the stock market crashed. And then our guys ended up flipping, our New Hampshire libertarians, and they flipped so bad that John E. Sununu ended up becoming like the chair of the oversight committee for TARP, which, by the way, horrible fucking job. I mean, we can now go back, and anybody sitting back looking at this saying, oh, hey, that TARP, that money was really well allocated. Not only did he do that, he ended up becoming the chair of a finance board based on his experience with TARP for the WEF, for Klaus Schwab's organization. He also voted for the Patriot Act. He voted for Real ID, our digital ID system, and then he became a lobbyist. So to cost this guy a seat, if you understand that the real threat is technocracy, this is the face of technocracy. So the Republicans losing the Senate and this guy losing, it's not like I'm taking out a good guy. I'm taking out a guy that's worse than the Democrat in this case for a very specific reason, which is he's effective. He has more gravitas. He's the kind of guy that what he did was when they were going to reauthorize the Patriot Act, he acted like he was a civil libertarian to try to smooth it over, and then basically put in some language that made sure that the Patriot Act was reauthorized. So rather than actually stop the Patriot Act, he put in fake civil libertarian safeguards, and now we have the Patriot Act. I'll be happy to do an episode as this goes forward on the Patriot Act itself, but I would say it's the largest surveillance act in U.S. history until the Clarity Act gets passed. So there's literally nothing to lose here. So anybody making these arguments, we'd be better with a Democrat. You know what? Get a life. Actually stand up for principles. How many times are you going to get kicked in the balls over and over again? How many humiliation rituals? Everybody that I know that interacts with that says this, they don't know what his record is. They have no idea what the issues are. They're just like, well, we better vote Republican. We have complete Republican rule. How's that working out? So I just want to set the precedent for that. And I understand this is not a normal strategy. Most people don't run for office because they're trying to do some some strategy to hold accountability and, whatever. Most people don't think about politics at all. Most people don't know what the three branches of government are. This is why voting overall doesn't matter. But in this particular instance, and by the way, I'm going to be ramping up, with Technocracy, Atlas, and everything else. I think people can use, as long as you understand that your involvement in politics is to slow things down, not that politics is the way to solve problems, then there's room for it. There's room for it in using politics to stop data centers at the local level. And there's been some recent success doing this. People showing up to town council meetings and everything else and voting overwhelmingly to shut this stuff down. And so in any event, this is kind of where we are on this, and I'm having a hard time actually with these red glasses even reading that. Hold on, let me pop this up. Yeah, so again, the strategy here is warn people, build, and then slow. There is a component to this. Now, when I'm thinking about allocating my time, I would prefer to be spending 100% of my time building parallel solutions. That's just not feasible right now. I hope the ratio of how I spend my time changes, but this is where it is right now. So I encourage you to check out day2026.com. There's a ton of information on this site. And, of course, there's music, there's a bill review system, there's all my content. There's a chat bot where you can actually interact with all of the content for this podcast and my book. There are 11 free books that you can download, links to all of my articles. I mean, this is not this is not a typical campaign site where it's a fake picture of a guy and a dog and then a, form for you to submit money. I am putting on this site exactly what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And I'm going to continue to do this. So again, I don't have to run there. I'll talk about what the timetables are, what the deadlines are, so on and so forth. But I have 4 demands. And if you listen to the music at the beginning, I played 4 different songs because each demand has its own kind of song that goes along with it. But it's free the crypto prisoners, fire Howard Lutnick, kill the Clarity Act, and then the draft. Those are, in short form, what that's all about. Now, when you go to day2026.com, you will find there's a tab called Demands. And then even on the homepage itself, there's a link to the demands. I have petitions that you can sign for 3 of these. And I'm going to start to get, I haven't promoted any of this yet. This is the first I've even talked about it. Most of these forms are new. But I want to get this stuff to go viral, and you can help with that. This is something where, one thing I'm not going to be doing is raising money so that people can buy yard signs and buttons and things with my name. If the money that I spend when it's related to raising awareness is going to be about raising awareness around these issues, because I view buying the name recognition stuff and mailers and everything, that's all just wasted. That's just pissing money away, particularly in the context of what we're doing here. But if we can take these surveys, fire Lutnick, so on and so forth, and get them viral, this is a way to spread awareness about what these important topics are, and hoping that people then look into this and say, well, why is this important? What is this all about? And you'll find all the content is there. One thing I didn't do is I don't have a petition for the crypto prisoners, because I have on the page for the crypto prisoners links to their own sites. I don't want to dilute any of their sites or collect information or anything, or do anything to dilute going to their site directly and supporting them directly. And I encourage you to do that, as I always have. freeandnow.org, freeroman.com, free Roman Storm. There's a Samurai, wallet one. I don't know if Ray Youssef has one, but you can find the links, and as they add more sites, all of these people need support if they have a petition to show that there's support, that there's true public support for them. Although I would argue what actually matters is just leverage. I mean, if you look at some of the people Trump has pardoned, it's not about whether the case was deserved or not. He's pardoned some shitty people. None of these are shitty people. These are people that promote freedom. But the righteousness of their cause isn't a factor in determining with this administration whether a pardon happens or not. Nevertheless, it helps us show support, but some of these people need financial support. And so, I'm going to encourage you to do that. I know everybody's kind of strapped, and I mean, I need to raise money for some of these things as well. But, the two most severe cases of everything going on right now are one, Roman Storm. Although Roman Storm had a couple of the larger charges that he was facing. There was a hung jury or whatever, and so it looked like he was done with that, and that he was basically going to be facing a maximum of about 5 years, which still is absurd, and we should be, fighting tooth and nail over that. But the government has decided under Trump to retry those two other charges. Now, last time I checked, Roman Storm has already spent $5 million on legal fees. You remember the last podcast I had Tor Eklund and Mike Hazard and forensic analysis for Roman Sterlingoff's case. And we had an interesting conversation about, basically he said, look, most of these cases settle out because people can't afford the legal fees. Just can't afford to take it the distance. Even if you take it the distance, the odds are you're going to lose 95% of the time. And this is not a function of the fact that the people that are charged by the federal government are guilty. This is how stacked the deck is. You get these juries and you bring in the state, and people have been gaslit and propagandized to actually believe that this system, is about promoting justice and everything else. And I had a great conversation with Tor about that. And what I want to do as we get further along with this is I want to bring multiple of these. Well, hopefully we'll get them all out. And then when we get them all out, I'd like to get them all on a web conference to describe their experiences with the DOJ so that everybody can start to understand the commonality of tactics here. But Roman Storm he's raised a lot of money. He needs more money because they're retrying the case. So he's now looking at like $7 million total. So he's already raised 5 and then some more on top of that, but he needs help like that. And there are situations here where, the only person I know that's gone the distance and won is Catherine Austin Fitts. And I had a conversation with her about this recently. And she did fight because she was actually trying to expose, she was in the administration was trying to expose and prevent the mortgage crisis before it happened. And she ended up getting targeted. In a horrendous way, and she had the resources, and she put it all on the line, and ended up winning her case. But it's really rare. So Roman Storm, and I believe his is freeromanstorm.com. I get these confused. I got to look at. Let me look at my iPad for a second. I have I have stickers on here, and I know. Oh, actually, that doesn't even have. It's a QR code. So Roman Sterlingoff is freeroman.com, and I think Roman Storm is freeromanstorm.com. But he needs financial assistance. Keone Rodriguez also needs financial assistance. He just put out a devastating tweet yesterday from Morgantown, which is where the prison that he's in. Basically saying, hey, we thought maybe we were going to have a pardon announcement or something at the Bitcoin conference, and it didn't happen. So we kind of are resigned to the fact that, he's going to have to spend 5 years in prison. But they have accumulated like $2 million worth of debt fighting this case. And they're in real financial crisis. So I'm going to have Lauren Rodriguez on, and we can discuss this more next week, but I encourage you, thanks, Christopher says those are the right sites. I encourage you, if you can, to support those two financially, because they're still in the thick of it. They're still fighting these things, or in Keone's case, I still think we're going to do everything that we can here. But this is it's just a tragic situation. Whatever. You'll see his wife, Lauren, is great. She really knows the issues, and the thing, these are genuinely nice people that were trying to do the right thing, and it's devastating to me to see this. But you'll see Lauren. But as always, freeandnow.org. We need to show support there. I don't think Ray Youssef has a site yet, but let's keep on with that. Now, Roman Sterlingoff has a hearing next week in 5 days, I believe, May the 12th in Washington, D.C. at 9:30 in the morning. If you can, please attend that and show support for Roman. And so that one is kind of the next one coming up. Again, I'm just kind of, it's devastating. I just, it's, to me, this started with Ian's sentencing hearing and then me trying to warn people before this happened. And now it's like all of these people have been sentenced and this stuff is still going on, and it's outrageous. So please support these guys. Now I'm going to show you a clip of, I believe this is a clip from the Bitcoin conference of Kash Patel, director of the FBI, and acting AG Todd Blanche.
And the distinction is easy. On the one hand, we're no longer going to regulate by prosecuting, which means quite simply that if you are a developer, if you are part of a platform, whether it's in the United States or elsewhere, we are not going to take your liberty away and prosecute you when there's not even a developed regulation that points clearly to a law that you're violating or some maxim that you're violating. And unfortunately, the last administration did that. They did that a lot. They had a cryptocurrency enforcement team. And so imagine the Department of Justice had an entire enforcement team of prosecutors, and there wasn't even any regulations around the industry at that point. And really something I thought was fundamentally unfair to the industry, to the coders that are out there, but also anybody in the crypto stream that was affected by that. Now, to be clear, and I think this is comforting to everybody in the audience, we are not excusing outright crimes. And so we are not excusing individuals who are bad actors and who use crypto to.
I mean, look, that's just bullshit. He said this with a straight face. Who are the developers that they've let off? Like, they went through this whole conversation and said, well, we're doing a great job. And as you know, we're not prosecuting this stuff. Really? Tell that to Ray Youssef. They didn't stop prosecutions, and they didn't halt or overturn the other stuff. They've done nothing because they don't want privacy. Because at the end of the day, Trump and the administration and Howard Lutnick are pushing centralized tokenization. They don't want privacy. They want control. And they don't want control for the United States. They want control for themselves. That's the truth. That's the reason that these cases haven't been dismissed. It has nothing to do with whether they even did anything illegal. These are people that have to be stopped. Oh, we can't have Roger Ver speaking about things, so we'll slap a gag order on him. Wouldn't it be great to have his voice right now? We need that more than anything, because, I would love to have Roger on to talk about the Clarity Act. I wonder what he thinks about the Clarity Act. I don't know. Can't talk about it. So this just goes on and on. And they said this. So when you go to day2026.com and you go to the demand number one, and this, I list 4 kind of supporting points for 3 of the 4 demands. For the one on the crypto prisoners, I just list all of the prisoners and the status of their case. But a big thing they were sitting there trying to talk about is code is speech. Based on what? Then why are the Samurai developers where they're at? Why is Roman Storm where he's at? What does that even mean to make the statement code is speech? To be on a panel that says the war on Bitcoin is over. It was infuriating. By the way, almost nobody was there. It was a ghost town. 40,000 people at the conference, and frankly, everybody knew these guys were going to lie. And in fact, they didn't even show up in person. They claimed that, this was after the shooting or whatever that constructed thing was, the ballroom marketing strategy or whatever. So they claimed that they had to stay in Washington, D.C. for that. I think what happened is it was announced that they were going to be at the conference. And if you were on social media and you saw the image of Kash Patel and Todd Blanche, they were just getting roasted. I think these guys finally decided, listen, we don't want to show up for this. And they're right, because if you're going to show up empty-handed and lie to people, you're not going to have a good time. So we've talked about who the roster is already. I like the song. Some people think it's over the top. The first song that I played tonight, it's kind of like a Les Mis inspired thing. I like the song. To me, I think it's like a rallying cry, but maybe it is a little bit over the top. Can you hear the seven? Actually, what is the name of it? Anyway, check it out. But and it's not just limited to these guys. There are other people as well. It's almost hard to I can't even keep up with and meet with all of the people. Like, there are other people that I know I need to talk to. And Chris Horlacher, I'm surprised he wasn't even on my radar, who we had 2 episodes ago. It just goes on and on and on. So I'm going to keep doing this because, and I encourage you to support them as well. And we're just not going to let this go for any of these guys. And it isn't a question of, well, the president just doesn't know about it. It isn't a question of any of this. There's a technocratic agenda being pushed. People in the administration are profiting from it, and they want these people silenced. That's actually what's happening. So we're going to declare the war on crypto. That's the way we get away with this. And don't be afraid. People are afraid of this. People are afraid of, don't speak out. Don't say, people don't like the fact that I speak out against Trump. As if I say something nice about Trump, any of these people are going to get pardoned. It's not going to happen. Investigate, get out AI, research the people he has pardoned, and then research what kind of subsequent business deals he's done with these people. This isn't about nice. This isn't about principle. It's about a deal. So, I was there at the Libertarian Convention. We're coming up on the Libertarian Convention again in Grand Rapids, Michigan, at the end of this month, May the 20th through the 24th, or 21st through the 25th, or something like that. But I was there when he said that he was going to commute Ross's sentence. And then he made some other promises that he fell through on. And then, then subsequently went on to say no CBDC and the war on crypto is over. And now we have 3 times the number of people that were advocating from the last time. Ross is out. Roger is, I don't know. I personally don't consider, I've never celebrated all of the time on this show and all the time that I spent giving talks and doing interviews and everything else to try to raise awareness. I've never celebrated Roger's conclusion. And I'm not saying that it's a bad outcome. I still haven't met Roger in person because of, all of this. And the gag order and everything else. So it's hard for me to view it as a celebration when the man can't speak. He was able to go on my podcast in April of 2023 or 2024. The years are now blurry. Whatever it was, he could come on my podcast. He can't come on my podcast now. Is it a win? There's never been a celebration. I did celebrate when Ross was pardoned. That was a genuine celebration. But I'm bringing that up just because the 5 that we were talking about at the Enemies of the State a couple of years ago were Ross, Julian Assange, Edward Snowden, Ian, and Roger. Ian's still in prison, still can't talk to Roger. And actually, Julian Assange and Edward Snowden are still in their situation. So, we have a good resolution with Ross. We have a resolution with a partial incomplete resolution with Roger. And now we have all these additional people at this Enemies of the State event. So, again, pardon or drop. Now, this is a negotiation. So I've got, 4 demands. But remember, all of the stuff that I'm saying here, all I'm doing is trying to hold these people accountable for what they said they were going to do. This isn't like I'm coming in and saying, oh, gee, I'm being unreasonable. It's like, you said you were going to do a bunch of stuff. You didn't do any of it. And in fact, you made some of it worse. So it's not like it's a big deal. Pardoning these people doesn't cost Trump anything. There's no downside to this. What is it going to hurt his reputation? Relative to what? Iran? The Board of Peace? Gas prices? Everybody gets all caught. Well, the political capital involved. The majority of the world has never heard of these people, and the majority of the world won't understand what any of these cases are about. There's no downside to pardoning these people. He pardoned all of the J6ers right away. And in fact, the one thing is, there are a lot of people that are like I'm saying, pardon all of these people. In fact, it'll be easier to pardon all of them, because if you just pardoned one, then everybody'd be like, the New York Times would be in there, oh, what's this one guy's background? And in fact, Trump's got a bad reputation with this, of pardoning on a one-off basis, and then you find out that he's a business partner and it looks like a pay-to-play deal or whatever it happens to be. Easier to just pardon all of these guys. Just do it. This is not hard. But the next is Howard Lutnick. And I was talking about Howard Lutnick before it was cool to talk about Howard Lutnick, as you know if you've been listening to this. But here's Howard himself.
I met Jeffrey Epstein when I moved to a house next door to him in New York, right? And I met him then. Over the next 14 years, I met him 2 other times that I can recall. 2 times. And that is none for 6 years. So 6 years later, I met him. And then a year and a half after that, I met him, and never again.
Did you, in fact, make the visit to Jeffrey Epstein's private island?
I did have lunch with him as I was on a boat going across on a family vacation. My wife was with me, as were my 4 children and nannies. I had another couple they were there as well with their children, and we had lunch on the island. That is true, for an hour, and we left with all of my children, with my nannies and my wife, all together. We were on family vacation. We were not apart. To suggest there was anything untoward about that in 2012, I don't recall why we did it, but
Mr. Secretary, again, as I said, there's not an indication that you yourself engaged in any wrongdoing with Jeffrey Epstein. It's the fact that you believe that you misled the country and the Congress based on your earlier statements, suggesting that you'd cut off all contact when, in fact, you had not.
So yeah, so there we go. I mean, and this isn't even the main reason to fire Lutnick. If you go to the Day 2024 site, I actually just put a link in the comments. It was the second song that I played. It actually went viral. This is a song, one of these music videos that I created. 250,000 people have watched this song, and it's about Howard Lutnick and the fact that he basically wrote the tariff bill. Wrote it 4 times too high, probably knowing that it would be overturned by the Supreme Court, while his family bet that the Supreme Court would overturn it, and made, I don't know, billions, made a whole bunch of money. So I wrote a whole song about it, kind of like an Irish drinking song kind of thing. And it's gone viral. I mean, in a million years would you ever think that a song about a commerce secretary, writing a tariff bill would go viral? But I love the song. But remember everything that we've talked about. So first of all, the argument is with all of this, well, there's no conflict of interest because he divested all of his assets. Yeah, he divested it to his sons. So, technically, legally that may work, but I mean, we're at a point right now where, this just is blatantly corrupt. Blatantly corrupt. So that's what the first of the 4 reasons. The other thing is he wrote the whole carve out, pushed the Genius Act, and backed through Cantor Fitzgerald all of the treasuries backing Tether. He's the biggest beneficiary of the Genius Act, and he orchestrated that before getting involved in politics. Then his Epstein ties, and then the tariffs. And this isn't an exhaustive list, but this guy, the United States can't have any credibility or standing or integrity in the world if this guy is here as Commerce Secretary. So I put up a petition. Please circulate the petition. With all these, I'm going to try to figure out. I want these petitions to go viral because, again, I want my campaign to be about the ideas, and the ideas and the overall theme here is around technocracy, and it is around parallel solutions. And so I want the campaign to be educational, but then also to have some substantial force behind it, and hopefully, we can negotiate some of these things. I mean, you got rid of Kristi Noem and everything else. Kristi Noem doesn't hold a candle to Lutnick. You know, I mean, people are making money on all of these trades. As I said earlier, Trump has declared that we've defeated Iran like 31 times, and there's always somebody front running the news. I don't know. I don't know for sure that it's Howard Lutnick, but boy, if I had to bet, if there's a prediction market on who's front running this stuff, I'd take that bet. So anyway, that is demand number 2, fire Howard Lutnick. Demand number 3, kill the Clarity Act. This is big now. This is, there's another conference going on right now, Consensus in Miami, and this is off the Bitcoin conference and everything else. And, just watching people's feedback from the Bitcoin conference and everything, nobody has read these bills. None of these people know what is in these bills. The way that it's been packaged is it's good for crypto because basically pension funds and, 401ks and all this other bullshit are going to be able to buy these cryptos. That's the way. So everybody's excited about that. Oh, money's coming in. Oh, you're not bullish enough and all of that. But in reality, the real motivation by this is to create a regulatory framework so that Wall Street can tokenize everything that you own. Stocks, your bonds, your home, gold, silver, commodities, and have CBDC level surveillance to it. That is the real goal of this bill. The bill's not about crypto. And why this is confusing is you have a lot of people out there that say, oh, I don't really care about this bill. I don't have crypto. Okay. Do you have a 401k? Do you have a retirement fund? Do you have public stocks? Okay. Well, if you do, you don't have those things in your own possession. You use a broker. And then we have an existing system right now that I'm not going to go into. I've talked about before. That system is going to be converted to tokenization. So you don't have to have a crypto wallet. You're already removed. You already don't own your retirement assets. Now they're going to be tokenized. You're still not going to hold the token, but now the government's going to be able to come in and say, we're going to take all of your stuff from Fidelity. We're going to take all of your stuff from BlackRock. And we're going to give it to the 4 largest banks next time there's a financial collapse. This is how you own nothing. That is the real reason and the real impetus behind the Clarity Act. This is why Larry Fink, now the co-chair of the WEF, says at Davos, everything will be tokenized. Everybody's excited that Larry Fink is talking about everything being tokenized. Why do you think that's going to benefit you? Do you usually benefit from BlackRock policy? How's that worked out so far? Why would you think that now, just because Larry Fink's going to be great on tokenization. He was bad about ESG and, he's been bad on everything else, pushing woke policies, all of it, but he's going to be good now because it's tokenization. Follow their investments. Look at the platforms that they're building for the tokenization of real world assets, including Cantor Fitzgerald. Howard Lutnick is involved in all this. And by the way, one other thing I got to add, based on this bill that's going around in the Senate, Howard Lutnick is going to have the single ability that be vested with a singular power to shoot down any state level regulation of AI. Now, I'm not for regulation at all, but there's a big misconception going on right now, even within libertarian circles, where if I say I'm against data centers, people are like, you're against capitalism. The bills that they're putting together between the White House policy and this Blackburn bill in the Senate will do the following. It will give the Department of Energy go, no-go power over whether or not a model can even be released. It will give the FTC control over whether or not the model is politically biased. It will get rid of Section 230, which will mean that you can be held, as a developer of these AIs, you could be held liable for the content produced through the AI. So the Section 230 is what gives technology platforms the ability to allow people to have free speech without them being sued or held liable for the content that other people put together. Lindsey Graham put in a thing that stripped that. And then Howard Lutnick can shoot down state laws. So when somebody says, oh, I'm pro data center, the only data centers you're going to get are surveillance systems that are from the top down. That's not a free market solution. It's the opposite of a free market solution. I will do a whole thing on data centers. I'm going to do a whole research report on data centers that I'm going to tack onto the Technocracy Atlas. But if you are interested in free markets, you should not be in support of the data centers the way that they're being pushed right now, because it's being pushed down from the top down by the federal government and then subsidized at the state level. So it's not free market. We're not getting free market AI. We're getting censored surveillance systems out of the AI. And I've talked about what's already in the bill. So what's already in the bill for crypto is there's going to be real-time tracking of all of your trades. So again, for right now, that's crypto, but that will go from crypto to being your stocks and your bonds and your retirement. This is why the crypto people just don't understand politics. And they don't read the legislation. And they've completely, and because of that, they're just buying more propaganda. It's being shoveled in, and there's not even any intellectual curiosity about it. All of your transactions will be tracked in real time. Not only the transactions, but the history of your transactions so that they can track the flow. So not just what you bought at one point in time, what is the chain of things that you bought and sold? That information will be stored for 5 years, and it will be shared with not only multiple departments of the federal government, it will be sold and shared with foreign central banks. So when I say it's the largest surveillance bill in the history of the United States, I'm not kidding. What else would you call every purchase you made, every crypto purchase you made, and then in the future, every asset that you own being tracked in real time, stored and shared with foreign governments and your own government? Compare that to the Patriot Act. I'll do one. In fact, I need to do one because no one is talking about the Clarity Act. I'm like one of the only people on the planet talking about the Clarity Act. And I know why. Go to day2026.com. I have a bill tracker. You can see who the lobbying firms are, who the former regulators are that are working to support the bill. There isn't a single person drafting this thing, supporting this thing, or pushing this thing that is concerned with individual freedom or privacy. They're not even at the table. So of course there's no possibility the bill is going to be a good bill. Now, it can still be shut down. And as I've said before, it's likely to be shut down. I saw somebody circulated something. In fact, I'd love your help with this. I'm going to need a lot of help with this. I'm not sure entirely how to do it yet. Maybe this is something that I can raise money for. One of these lobbying groups put out a thing where there's some asshole, young guy that's, learning how to lie to people for a living in Washington, D.C., some lobbyist who he's sitting there in front of the Capitol building talking about how he's delivering a petition. And they got 28,000 people to sign this bill in favor of the Clarity Act. And I'm like, how much? First of all, and I'm going to look this up. I wonder what the language is that they put on it to explain what's in the bill, because I'm sure they didn't actually have people read the bill. They're like, oh, well, if you're pro-America, if you think America should lead in innovation for crypto or whatever, and then they probably spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in ads to push propaganda to get people to sign that petition. And I will drill that down. I would like for us to be able to, if possible, organically get people to sign this thing in opposition. And I know it's tough because it's a complicated bill, and most people are just not. It is that important. And I don't want to be here saying, oh, see, next year when we're all on the digital gulag saying, hey, I wish people would have taken me seriously on this. I'm telling you, this is worse than the Genius Act. And it's worse than if we had a CBDC. It is a horrible, horrible piece of legislation. So that's that demand. They can also freeze your assets and all of these other things. And so it's just on and on, but more information on this. And, $193 million worth of lobbyists and PAC money behind it. So this is why I say, when I go to this Bitcoin conference, I'm kind of like, I don't even know. I mean, I remember crypto conferences 14 years ago or whatever. This stuff is unrecognizable. People celebrating politicians, people celebrating surveillance legislation, PACs, just ridiculous. And then here's the last of the four demands. You all will probably remember this.
We defeated ISIS. We defeated ISIS in record time, but we had no wars. They said, he will start a war. I'm not going to start a war. I'm going to stop wars. But this is also a massive victory for democracy and for freedom. Together, we're going to unlock America's glorious destiny. We're going to achieve the most incredible future for our people. Yesterday, as I stood at my last stop on the campaign trail, I'll never be doing a...
This is the Aaron Day. So, I mean, you know, the idea that we're now talking about bringing back the draft, so many people that bought into the Operation Warp Speed guy's the only guy that can save Western civilization pitch. A lot of it, there are a lot of people, he captured a lot of Dems. There are a lot of these Dems that were kind of like, well, I like RFK, but he's also anti-war, right? So these were kind of the big things. And to go from that, and multiple clips of him saying Middle East is a waste of time, Iran's a waste of time. But Tulsi Gabbard, who, by the way, if you still are buying that, I don't even know what to tell you. Now we're talking about a draft. Now we're talking about, well, hey, we're going to let people. So is it a win if you can get back into the military after having denied or rejected the vaccine? Is that a win? I'm seeing people like, well, see, we're making progress. Are we making progress if they're easing and relaxing their restrictions because we're going to war? A war that he said we would never have. So point number 4 is just get rid of the draft. But related to that, and then the last song that I played, Ditch the Dollar, there's a height requirement, there's a height minimum and a height maximum for being in the military. And the maximum is 6'8". Barron is 6'9". So he's medically disqualified from the draft. I've seen a lot of these draft Barron. He's literally medically disqualified. So he promised no wars, then came in and bombed Iran, right? That was last year. Last year we bombed after saying we weren't going to do this. And I remember I had all these trust the plan people because I was like, oh, here we go. We're going to expand this. And this guy's like, the one guy in particular, it's like, no, man, he just stopped this. You know, we went in there and we just dropped a few bombs and now it's all over with. We weren't even supposed to do that. And then after we did that, we were promised that we've destroyed their nuclear capabilities. And now here we are. I wrote about this. It used to be 80% of my post was Iran, and now I have no idea what's going on. Everything's stripped. I didn't even get Lego videos. And when I posted that, other people, I guess, are seeing the same thing. So the only metric that I have to go on as to how it's going on is, you know, filling up the gas tank, which I did a couple days ago. And it was like $4.40 or something, $4.44 a gallon here in New Hampshire, which is very high for New Hampshire. So I can only assume we're not winning, despite there, you know, whatever the headlines might be about there being a resolution. That's just been a massive, massive failure. Tulsi Gabbard was selling shirts for $24.99 that actually said no war in Iran. Her whole thing was, remember, her big thing, I never bought her. I you know, if you followed me, for the very beginning, I've said she was WEF, and then her last job was in the PSYOP division of the military. This is not like, this isn't a, so people like, well, she, all of a sudden she has an anti-war stance. The rest of her votes actually sucked, but she all of a sudden became somewhat anti-war, and people are like, oh, wow, Tulsi could be president. Wake up. How many times are you going to fall for this? So what was she about? Well, we're not going to do warrantless wiretapping, and, you know, I'm anti-Iran. And now what do we have? And she was selling shirts. And now we have both of those things. And now what is her position? Her position now in the play is she's the one that's going to arrest Obama. You know what I mean? Like, this is just so, you know, I'm highlighting this just because of the absurdity and the idea that we should even have a draft. And by the way, if we're doing this autonomous AI and all of these advanced weapon systems, why do we even need a draft anyway? They just had this big announcement of the Department of War is working with all of these tech companies and we're going to be on the cutting edge of autonomy. Then why would you need people? So, you know, you don't have to get vaccinated anymore. And now we're going to bring back the fitness test, you know, so that people can go to war. And you have Pete Hegseth actually out there stating this. So I'm against that. And I will be speaking at the Rage Against the War Machine event. I'm speaking 3 times at least. at this convention, libertarian convention. I'm speaking in front of the whole audience. And my talk there is going to be about how to really end the Fed. And, you know, I don't want to give away all of it, but it's not voting. I'm going to be speaking at the Enemies of the State event about this strategy, the war on crypto, maybe I'll call it that. And then I'm going to speak. This is the second Rage Against the War Machine, but it's the third anti-war thing that I've spoken at, going all the way back to when I ran for president. The first time I ran for president, it was like the anniversary of Nagasaki, and it was right when that movie came out, Oppenheimer. Like, it was literally, I remember my wife and I went and saw the movie, and then we went to New York, and we were outside of the UN. And I was like, there were a bunch of people speaking, but all kinds of political ideologies. At the time, I was a Republican, and I was the only Republican there. There were actually communists there, socialist, Green Party, everything else. But people speaking that were anti-war. But there was like 100 people in the crowd. And the day before, I remember seeing something on social media where it's like somebody was giving away a new PlayStation, and there were like riots and swamps and, you know, people all over the place in New York City, and only 100 people showed up. Anti-war. Last time, Rage Against the War Machine, it was the biggest like stage production I've ever seen. This was the National Mall in Washington, D.C., and it was because it was the day before the Rescue the Republic event. So we were kind of like the warm-up act, if you will. But like 70 people showed up. And so I don't know where the anti-war people are. Maybe they'll show up this time. I hope they do. I know Scott Horton's going to be there. The Defend the Guard guy is going to be there. There are going to be some great people speaking about it. But I'll give you a little hint. The talk that I gave last time when I was in D.C., I said, if you want to end the war, stop using the dollar. If you want to end the Fed, stop using the dollar. And it's literally as simple as this. Our currency is based on debt. The biggest funding element of our budget is military. I mean, now it's actually a battle between that and entitlements, but historically it's been military. So when you're participating in using the dollar, you're funding the war machine. So you want to end these things, stop using the dollar. You're not going to vote your way out of it. That's my punchline. You don't have to listen to any of my other talks. That's it. Free the crypto prisoners, ditch the dollar. That's the real short version of it. But if you want to understand why, I'll be explaining that at various levels, depending on how much time I have. So that's it. The pitch is this. I don't have to run. I can keep my name off the ballot and not go through this whole thing. Free the crypto prisoners, fire Lutnick, kill the Clarity Act, and end the draft. And that's kind of my opening negotiating level. And again, everything that I'm doing there, the Clarity Act is the war on crypto. You're not going to convince me that this idea that America is going to lead the world in crypto because we're doing 5-year real-time tracking of everybody's transactions and sharing it with foreign governments. That's not how you become a leader in anything. Capital flows to where it's the most free. There is no concept where this is actually going to stimulate crypto, but they're going after private. They don't want us to be able to engage in private transactions. And it has nothing to do with money laundering or terrorism. They're the ones doing the money laundering and terrorism. If you want to look at money laundering and terrorism, look at the Board of Peace. Look at Gaza. Look at what's going on in Iran and what they're going to propose. That's where the criminal activity is, not people that want to have their transactions remain private, because they know a technocratic state is going to come in and try to tell them what they can buy, where they can live, and what they can eat, and how they can speak. That's why people want private transactions. Not to violate the laws that exist today, but to protect themselves from the technocrats overriding the rule of law itself. That's why people want privacy. So that is the campaign. So again, I know this is unusual. This is not a typical campaign. Every aspect of this, though, I'm going to tell, like, again, people don't tell you what they're actually going to do or why they're doing it. This is exactly what it is. These are the 4 demands. This is the starting point. It's a negotiation, but at the same time, This race may control the Senate. This race may control whether Trump gets impeached. And, in the end, I don't have to do anything other than get my name on the ballot to probably tilt the thing. But I will run if I have to run. But I don't want to run. If I'm actually running, it means that we didn't have success with any of these demands. That's what it means. And, if we could get any of those things done, especially if we could get any of those crypto prisoners free, that's more valuable than anything I could do in Washington, D.C. Helping to get people who promote privacy and freedom free, that is more important than anything anyone can do in Washington, D.C. So, reminder, I've done this before. I'm telling you guys this so that you can tell other people this. This is a weird situation because there aren't many examples. I don't know of any other examples like this where somebody specifically ran to do something like this and was successful. And now I'm doing it again. The thing is, people know. John Sununu is very aware that I'm in this race. Scott Brown, who I opposed, had a super PAC against in 2014. He showed up at a Free State Project event. We had a talk. He talked. I talked. We had a good dynamic. I'm not, I hope he wins the primary. I mean, between the two of them, I don't agree with him on a whole host of issues. But to be clear, these people know what's going on. They know I'm in this race, and so now it's just a question of what are we going to do? How long are we going to drag this out? But if I run, I'll just give you a preview of what the campaign is going to be like. And this is right here. These are the milestones and these are the dates. So I am raising money now. So if you are so inclined, I would appreciate some donations, or contributions. The contributions at this point are going to promote my campaign in the context of the 4 demands. So it'll be to amplify posts that go viral first, and then amplify those further to make people aware of these issues. So for instance, I may take that Howard Lutnick song with 250,000 views that went viral organically and then boost that with a wrapper around it that explains the context of the video and the Fire Lutnick petition and so forth. So I'd like to raise, up to 10 grand by the end of May. Again, these aren't large numbers as far as Senate races go. I am not, and again, I'm not even wanting, I don't want to raise more than that at this point in time because these are milestones. So the goal here is at this point in time, I'm sure also is going to sound weird, but I'm not sitting here saying I want to raise as much possible. I want to raise as much as is needed at the milestone, and then hopefully I'm not in the race. But if I am still in the race, then there's the next milestone. So the next milestone is I'm not even officially a candidate. I have until June the 12th to actually sign the paperwork and to officially become a candidate. In fact, the filing period is like June the 3rd through the 12th or something like that. So the first thing that I'll do in this process is file. And then I have until August the 5th to collect 3,000 signatures. And I need 1,500 signatures in New Hampshire's broken up into 2 congressional districts. And so I need to get 1,500 in each of those districts. And I need to get it in excess of that in case the petitions are not valid. In fact, I may even go and get twice as many just because I expect shenanigans. And so that's going to be the next hurdle. Now, here's the interesting part about this, because there are people that already want to help, and there are people that I know I can pay to do this as well and get this done in like 2 weeks. So it's a combination of those things. But certainly it'd be preferable if we could get like an organic movement together if we need to. I would say let's wait and see what happens on June the 12th. But I mean, we've already got a group with a whole bunch of people in it that are ready to collect signatures. And and a lot of these people are like, hey, can we collect signatures yet? And I'm like, look, once we collect the signatures and once we turn the signatures in, I can't get off of the ballot. And then we're no longer in this kind of position. And then you can't really get off of the ballot. And so you don't want to wait too long because you want to make sure you can collect the signatures. But I'm also not I'm not rushing to do it because we know how to do it. I've done it before. It's not fun because New Hampshire's spread out, right? You may think if you're in a different state, you may be like 3,000 signatures. That's nothing. I mean, I know my friend Shannon Joy is running for lieutenant governor of the state of New York with Larry Sharp. And they have to collect a significant, like 10 times that number of signatures or something. I don't know what it is. That's a huge effort. But New Hampshire's spread out, and you have to be kind of clever about how you're not going to go door to door. You want to try to find places where a lot of people are gathering and everything else. Well, anyway, we figured all that out, but that's going to be a next step. So if you want to sign up again and help out there and just put your name on a list, that would be helpful. Then September the 8th is the primary. So this is something that, you might be thinking, wow, why is all this stuff, kind of so late? I mean, our primary we have, I think, probably the shortest gap between the primary and the general election. And so September the 8th is when we have a primary, and then the election is November the 3rd. So those are the routes. Now, if we have to go through this and we collect the signatures, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to begin what may be the beginning of a nationwide roadshow. But I'm going to go around doing a lot of what I've been doing, but I'm going to go and do like completely unconventional. I'm not going to go and give these 10-minute bullshit talks where you go and you give these sound bites. I'm going to do 1, 2, 3 hour long workshops, what I was doing with crypto, where I explained to people what technocracy is. And I explained to people what the real threat is. And the real important part of my campaign is our rights don't come from government. Our rights don't come from Washington, D.C. And everybody needs to realize that and to remind people of that. People forget that. And then to actually show them how to use privacy coins and build parallel systems. I'm not going to go around, here's why you should vote for me. I'm going to say what I said at the beginning of this. If some long shot I get elected, it'll be very disappointing. For me to get elected would mean people would have to be awake enough to realize that we should be exiting the system, in which case I wouldn't need to run to begin with. So this is why, but I mean, if I ran, I'd be doing, I'd be a more extreme version of Thomas Massey in terms of I think the best thing that he did was by far the Epstein files, the voting record or whatever. Yeah. I mean, he's introduced a lot of bills that sound great and everything else. None of it ever happens. And, we're nowhere near ending the Fed, but the Epstein thing, that's real. And I would do that. So I would just, it would be very entertaining for people unless you're actually another member of the Senate. But the campaign is going to be truly grassroots. And I mean, my wife and I have been to 27 states, 3 countries. All I've been doing is talks and presentations and workshops. So I'm already thinking about how I would organize the site, but I don't want to spend a lot of time on that because I don't want to put my energy on that. I want to put my energy right now on the 4 demands and making sure people know. And I'm going to make the people that fund this PAC that's putting $17 million into Sununu, I want them to be aware of the race, and I want them to be aware of 2016 because they're going to lose a lot of money. So anyway, if you want to help, again, sign up for the site, for the mailing list or whatever. Sign the petitions, though. And if I'm going to prioritize these, sign the petitions for the crypto prisoners, not even my petitions first. You can sign my petitions, but let's help these people that first and foremost. And I was even thinking, I wonder if there's a way I can figure out a way where people can just sign one thing and then it distributes their signature to all of the petitions and everything else. And that's probably going to be technically more difficult than it's worth, but please consider supporting all of the ones that have petitions. And if you can, financially support Roman Storm in any way, shape, or form, or Keone Rodriguez, please do it. This is just, Roman Storm has a small kid, and, the Rodriguezes are at a point where they're at an age where they were about to be starting to have kids. And now this prison sentence and everything else might actually put them out of that window. It's just, So anyway, I'll have Lauren on next week, so we'll be able to talk about that more, and I'll do a better job of making the links available and everything else. And I'm not even sure they're taking certain cryptocurrencies. I may, if they're not taking, Zano or Freedom Dollar or everything else, maybe I'll help set up an interface for that. I don't want to be a conduit for it, but maybe help them set that up. And then if you can donate to my campaign, you know, in the true tradition of how I've been living, I have decided not to have a bank account, even for the campaign. So I will not be taking fiat currency. I will only be taking crypto. And I have set up, there's a new system, a new website that you can go to called coindonor.com. And I'm saying this because you should consider this. If you're interested in raising money for a cause in crypto, I recommend CoinDonor. It's really cool the way that it works. I think I'm accepting privacy coins and then maybe more than a handful, maybe 10, transparent coins. I refuse on principle to take Tether. So, I'm not going to have a campaign to fire Howard Lutnick and then take Tether. So, admittedly, this is making it harder to raise money. One of the things that you'll see on the website is for people that don't have crypto, here's a guide to how to onboard to obtain crypto. Download an Edge wallet, use your credit card, buy crypto, and put it in. So I know it's going to be a pain in the ass for some people, but I have to stick to my principles. And in the end, if out of this we onboard people to crypto, then I'm certainly okay with that as well. So I'm gonna pop over to the website and just give you guys a tour of it. I mean, I think I've spoken largely to the content on it, and I think this one's ready for prime time. I've spent a bunch of time. There's a lot more that I'm not necessarily going to discuss tonight. Although if we have the Q&A, I might go into some more of these things. As you know, I've been working on a lot of sites, and they're all going to be done, meaning they're in like beta or alpha stage or whatever. They're all going to be like version 1 done, tested, fully functional by this libertarian event, because they're going to be integrated on the Daylight de-Googled phone. So I'm going to start making a big push for that as well, starting at the Libertarian Convention. So it's like 8 websites. And so I've been working like 16 hours a day just trying to get all this stuff done because, as I said, we're going into war mode now. I've spent the last couple of years building things, writing books, getting ideas together. Now it's the marketing phase. Now this is the how do we get this information out there? Have we built tools that can empower people and embolden people in a whole variety of different areas? And the answer to that is that will be done. The Daylight Freedom site is done. The AaronDayShow.com site is almost done. The Day 2026 site is done. And then I have several others that I just need to clean up some things that, I know have some bugs here and there. But then we hit it. Then it's about marketing and onboarding people. The whole point of these tools is to get people out of the system and to realize there are parallel solutions. And if there aren't parallel solutions in a particular area, that's an opportunity for people to build. And so that is, I'm excited about it. I'm exhausted because like all of this is going on at the same time. So it's been a little taxing, and I'm trying to like line a lot of this stuff up all at the same time, just to save time. And, because everything that I'm working on is overlapping and related. So this is the website, day2026.com. Again, you can sign up right on the front page for the email list. I've reiterated the 4 demands right on the homepage. There's kind of a money bomb machine here where you can contribute. And again, we're taking Xano, Freedom Dollar, BTCX, ETHX, BCHX. So those are the private versions of those coins through Confidential Layer. Take Monero. And then it's a little bit of misclassification. We take Zcash as well. Bitcoin, Ethereum, USDC, BCH, XRP, BNB, Solana, Doge, Litecoin as well. I mean, if you're interested, I'm just going to convert those. immediately into probably Freedom Dollar, but those are the ones that we're taking. And, if you're interested and you're so inclined, there's a maximum contribution of $7,000. And technically it's $3,500 in the primary and then another $3,500 that I can take in the general election. So it's just kind of a weird set of rules. So that's the funding aspect. I'm launching this for the first time. I haven't even put out a post on this, haven't raised any money yet. This is the first anybody's heard of it. My background is on there, whatever. This is more for press and all that other stuff. But this is the most important tab, I think, of the site is the prisoners tab. And this just shows you, I've got to lead with a music video. I like this music video. You may think it's just completely cheesy. My wife is kind of like, maybe this is a little over the top, but I spent a lot of time on it. It's hard to get 7 people into an AI video. And so it's certainly not perfect. There are definitely places where it doesn't entirely look like the people, but again, I'm always tweaking the music video system. So 6 months from now, I'm sure it'll be much better. But Ian Freeman, please sign the petition at freeian.org. I believe Keone Rodriguez, there's a fund there. William Hill, who people don't talk about William Hill. It took me a long time to even find a picture of William Hill to put him in the in the video. I guess he's like 67 years old. And so obviously a hardcore developer, primary developer behind the privacy tech, but nobody, I don't really see anybody talking about him. I see Keone's wife out talking about him. So, we're kind of advocating for him silently. My wife says it's grown on me. Good. Roman Sterlingoff, who again, his is even a case of missing identity or mistaken identity. But even if he did what they claimed, it shouldn't be illegal. It's a Bitcoin mixing service. Again, the war on crypto is over, and there's other documents that state that these kinds of privacy services aren't illegal. So why is somebody who didn't even create a privacy service sentenced to 12 and a half years? So please show up May the 12th, 9:30 a.m. in D.C. for his hearing. And their hearing is about, he's already lost the case, but this one is they're trying to get it thrown out on jurisdictional grounds because Roman Sterlingoff's never been to D.C. or done anything with anybody in D.C. They should have never tried the case there. Roman Storm, we talked about 40 years. Ray, I think there's some people that are resistant to support Ray's cause. Frankly, because he's Muslim or whatever, which is to me absurd. I think Ray needs their support. I've known Ray from before. Like Ray is, I knew Ian and Roger. I heard Roger and followed Roger, but I didn't necessarily know him that well. But I certainly know Roger, the essence of Roger. But I actually know Ray. I had him on my podcast, the first season of the podcast, and then we were at Moneratopia together. And then actually, he was supposed to speak right before me at Moneratopia when he was arrested, and he's been promoting peer-to-peer digital cash in the global South, in Africa. And he's given some powerful talks. He's a commanding, character. He calls himself the war chief. And if you hear him talking, he's spoken out. He's spoken out against the U.S. government policy in the Middle East, which I can't find any flaws in what he's saying. He's spoken out against CZ and Binance and some other things. I believe that this is a political persecution, and he's being charged with the same stuff Ian is. So he doesn't have a website yet or anything. And, some of these people are in they could be pardoned because they've already lost or they're already in prison. Ray's case is a little different. Ray's case should just be dropped. So it's hard to even segment out. Well, I don't want to say, I say pardon them all, but pardon them or drop the case. But I hope people join me in amplifying Ray's message. And I actually encourage you to listen to the first podcast that I did with him from season 1, long before these troubles, because you'll learn a lot about who he is as a person and his kind of transformation. And he spent 7 years just kind of, researching all kinds of different things and going through this huge spiritual transformation. This is long before these legal troubles, long before everything else. He's a fascinating guy. And then Roger, I mean, I put Roger on here. I mean, Roger's not really kind of officially, doing anything. I just put it on there because I think that they should pardon him. I don't even know that if there's an active process for that, but I don't think he should have a gag order. I'd love to be able to talk to Roger. I'd love to be able to have Roger back on the podcast, but the world needs to hear from Roger. Roger needs to be able to express himself, and it's a disservice to the planet for him to not be able to speak. So those are the people there. The bills section. So I spent a lot of time on this, and because again, my point is, I think people need to start looking at the technocratic lens. We have something going on right now in the liberty movement that I think is really problematic, which is that people have now adopted this idea that the most important thing is to own the libs. The most important thing isn't what your principles are, but it's important that the left loses in these little generic amorphous box of whatever it means to be the left. And so people are banding their principles because they're buying onto the argument that you need to have political power. Being a reactionary is not a life decision. Abandoning natural law and becoming just the opposite of what something else is on a reactionary basis is frankly bullshit. And so, and a lot of these people are promoting technocracy probably without understanding what it is. There's been a lot of confusion. Peter Thiel being at the heart of it. Peter Thiel, if somebody's playing 5D chess, it's Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel is not a libertarian. Peter Thiel is a technocrat, and a lot of libertarians are buying it. And I've done numerous podcasts and Curtis Yarv and all of this other stuff. But I put these on here so that maybe people can start looking at the rating systems for these bills and where they stand on like a technocracy scale. I have to update this because I think the Clarity Act is even worse now. But the Patriot Act's like an 88. And, when you go in and you look at something like, the old version of the Digital Commodities Act, which is the new Clarity Act, what I put in here is, what are the opinions of the people that I'm running against? But, who's sponsoring it? What is the threat? So, the threat of the Clarity Act is surveillance, financial control, identity requirements, centralization of power, due process erosion, corporate state fusion, and granting more emergency powers. And it breaks down who the threats are. It breaks down kind of the propaganda of what they say it is versus what it actually is if you read the bill. And then it discusses who profits. You always have to know with these bills, again, this isn't this, PBS version of how a bill becomes a law with some animated cartoon or whatever. I mean, this is $193 million went into this. So who's profiting? Well, you can follow the money. You have Circle, which is the company behind USDC, Andreessen Horowitz, the venture capital firm. You have former CFTC officials. You have the Blockchain Association, the Digital Chamber of Commerce. These are the people that are behind the scenes. They're either coalitions, corporations, PACs, or lobbyists that are actually influencing, working on, basically the language of the bill. It's that, the senators don't write these bills. I hope people do know that. In fact, they don't even read the bills. There are other people involved in this. And so what I'm breaking down here, and I know a lot of people don't want to go into this detail, but I'm starting to piss a lot of people off online. I'm following these people and I will call them out. When I see a post and then I research and find out that this person's a lobbyist and they're getting paid, I'm going to denote that. These are the specific individuals that are involved within these organizations that are influencing this. People need to start understanding how this works. Media conflict of interest, as I've said many times, there's no organic support for this, but then you find out that crypto media is often controlled by crypto firms that benefit from the legislation. So you're not actually getting journalism, not that they necessarily even claim to be journalism, but these are all sponsored ads. This is why, in some cases you'll find it's 100% for the Genius Act, 0 against. Nobody talking about the surveillance features in this. This is why nobody knows anything about these bills, because you would actually have to read the bill in order to know what's in it. No one reads the bill, including the people that vote on it. Now, but we have AI, right? Let's use AI for a good purpose. You know, if you don't want to read the whole bill, I've gotten used to reading bills for whatever reason, for doing a lot of political stuff. But I mean, I read the bills and then I also throw them through AI. Throw it through AI. Ask the bill questions, and then you'll learn yourself what's actually in this and a whole bunch of different astroturf. So I'm going to continue doing this, putting together this kind of analysis. Yeah, I've got the whole music section in there. There's a whole list of all my writings, the final countdown, the AI books, the articles, everything, so people can see that. There are memes, press kit, the demands, and then a link to the donate page. So again, pretty comprehensive as far as political sites go, and I encourage you to sign up, but more importantly, if you can donate, please do. I do want to raise this 10,000 just so that I can start. I actually had a good run there. I was getting 2 to 3 million impressions per week on X, and then it stopped. It got shut down pretty badly, and it got shut down after I started producing a lot of these posts about technocracy on a state by state level and on a country by country level, because those were going viral. The one in Ohio, when Craig and I did the episode, that post not only got 150,000 views or whatever, it had the guy, Casey Putsch, who was running for governor on there. It had a whole bunch of people in Ohio sharing it and talking about it. And that's happened with certain other states too, that where it's been amplified. Because the truth of the matter is, all I'm doing is packaging up what's already happened in a state. And people just aren't aware of it. It's not like this is all new stuff, but like what's going on in Ohio with facial recognition and how they're implementing a system where they're going to reward people for ratting on other people using mobile surveillance and drones and everything else. And then you see Peter Thiel runs that, is behind this company and everything else. It's like, then all of a sudden you get the whole picture. And that, Jeffrey Epstein was the president of basically a company town called New Albany, where most of the data centers are being built in Ohio, which was funded by Les Wexner, who bought a bunch of farmland. Like, it gets pretty crazy, actually. That's how we win, though. I realized I'm going to do less of deep historical information moving forward on technocracy, and I'll tell you why. It's because I've seen enough. Like, I don't need... There is a technocracy. This is a coordinated plan. You could go to any level of detail on it, and it doesn't matter. What matters is that we build parallel systems, and more what matters is that we take what we do know and package it in ways that people can understand. And that's not going to be, I'm a big fan of Whitney Webb, but Whitney Webb is not going to go viral in a way, and it's because we've tried. We've actually tried that. It's personalizing what technocracy means. When somebody sees what the data centers are, when somebody can see, okay, this is what it's like in my state. So when I say we're in war mode, coming out of this libertarian convention, I'm going all in and I'm scaling up. I'm also raising money, by the way, for Daylight Freedom, but we're going to be scaling up the marketing. Now that we have all of these sites and different places for people to go and information, now it's about getting it out there. Because once clarity passes and at the rate everything else is going, and you can see and you can imagine a energy lockdown, or I joked today, I guess, with this hantavirus. If we have hantavirus happen, at least this time, maybe the fries that you'll get in exchange for the vaccine will be beef tallow instead of seed oils. But that's about where we are at this point. So anyway, that's the site. Again, if you can help, I don't like asking for money or raising money. Everything that I've done here so far, I've been self-funding this off of any money that I've made doing anything, speaking, books, or whatever. I've just pumped into Daylight Freedom. So, basically I've been self-funding all of the stuff that we've been creating, and that's fine. And we've been able to do that. Now I actually need help scaling it up, and I do need a little bit of help with this race. But I did want to tell everybody exactly what I'm doing with it. I don't want anybody to be like, oh, if let's say some of these demands are met and I drop out, I don't want somebody to be like, oh, well, I donated money because I thought you were going to, run to win and then you were going to change things in Washington, D.C. I don't want anybody to have that impression. I will say exactly what I'm doing. And my goal is to raise as little as possible, but the amount necessary for each of these steps through the hurdle. And It's going to get intense. I mean, when you put out something like a music video that says "pardon them all or lose Congress" or whatever, that tends to, people are watching. And the last time I got sued and I got threatened, and so I'm aware of that, and the stakes are high. And so it is what it is. It needs to be done, and I'm not going to be fearful about it. And this happened a lot when I would go and do workshops or whatever, and people would actually like pray or whatever, but before or after the talk or what, and they're like, "Hey, these friends of yours are going to prison. Aren't you worried about what you're doing?" And I'm like, look, if we actually don't stop technocracy, we're all going to be in a digital prison. So my mindset is, if we don't act, the prison is the default. So for that's why I choose to not have fear about it. But at the same time, I also want to reduce friction and go as fast as we possibly can, because we're outnumbered, and it's a difficult scenario that we are in. But I think this political strategy it's not the only, but it may be the best shot that these crypto prisoners have to get out. And it's simply because, and I think this makes sense, people don't want to hear it, but I mean, let's face it. Trump's whole thing is the art of the deal. Trump is capable of doing deals. He likes doing deals. But he doesn't do things out of principle. And that is apparent. You don't have to be a stable genius to realize that. And so I believe, at least for the moment, we have something to negotiate with. And I want to make sure that gets articulated. The last thing I want to do is go through this whole process and find out the right people weren't aware about what was going on. It was just a miscommunication. And then I find myself running this whole Senate campaign and doing all this other stuff. I mean, it's going to be bad. And people that I know aren't going to like this. Nobody understands this. There are people, when I did this last time, they're like, "Oh, he must be a closet Dem or whatever." And it's just, they don't understand. These are elected people. They don't understand it. They still think that they're helping with their manufactured two-party solution. So anyway, I'm going to open this up for Q&A, season three. I'm going to put the link in there. So if you want to pop in, I've only sent out one or two of these. And so I don't even think most people know, because it's been a couple of weeks. I think people might have forgotten about the show. Oh, good. Mike Adams plugged it. And by the way, Mike Adams, hopefully I'll have Mike on again soon. Mike's been doing great work with that AI. Yeah, I just saw it put out a thing. He wants to empower 1 billion people on the planet with free decentralized AI tools, and the book system, Brighteon books. He's now done some new stuff to actually translate into foreign languages, and I think he's just released Spanish versions of the book. So always grateful to see what Mike is up to. Hopefully Dan O'Neill, if you're here listening, maybe you can come on. The problem with this is, I could have actually gone and talked about 4 different websites and a whole bunch of other stuff. I know there's a lot of information, and it's because, frankly, there's just a lot of stuff going on. So there's all these prisoners, then there's the the campaign and everything. But this Enemies of the State event is really important. And I'm going to have Lauren Rodriguez, and then hopefully the next week I'm going to have Ammon Bundy on the show. He's going to be one of the enemies of the state. This Enemies of the State event is important. I think this race is important, but I also think that this Enemies of the State event, it might be the biggest opportunity to raise awareness about all of these prisoners. And it's going to be, I think, 13 people total. It's going to start with Ammon Bundy. It's going to close with Afro Man, and then a bunch of us in between. Lauren Rodriguez is going to be there. Lynn Ulbricht is going to be there, and many others. And so we're going to live stream it, though. And I've already got a couple of people. I'm going to live stream it through this channel. And then I've got a couple of people that have, over 1 million followers that have agreed. And I'm going to try to get a few more people so that we have, a potential reach of 3 million. Right? Because, a few hundred people at the party, it's great. It's a great opportunity for people to connect and everything. But I want this information to get out there. And I want these stories to get out there. And the more I do, it's just, everyone, and then I feel bad. It's like Roman Sterlingoff just was not even on my radar. And then I hear his thing. And every one of these cases is heartbreaking. And we gotta help the whole group. And I hope, the groups support each other. Sometimes in these cases, people can be like, well, I don't want to be a situation where it's my pardon or the other guy's pardon. And so people are like, well, let's just stay in our lane. But I actually think this is more powerful, like in the J6 model as a, as a group. I think it's a more powerful negotiating tool. And again, the funny thing about this is if the guy ran on ending the war of crypto, like what? There are people that'll say, well, this would cost him political capital. Why would it cost you political capital to do the thing that you said you were going to do? Makes no sense to me. And I don't think that it's true. And there are a lot of people that get involved in these processes. And look, it's it's like this. I know with some lawyers, not all. I mean, certainly Tor Eklund is great on this, but I know other lawyers in other situations where it's like, well, they don't really want to rock the boat too much. And I, I've seen other lawyers that are just like, well, they bill by the hour. And so are they really going to stick their neck out to push something? And, the answer is often no, because these are people who make a living being this buffer between people who have been, targeted by the government and the political class. And so they want to be able to continue to monetize that. So it's good to know that there's some good guys. I liked Tor, and I really like Mike Hazard, who I met at Moneratopia, where this is his first case out of law school. Man, it's just changed his entire worldview about how the legal system works. So I'm hoping, I've had these guys on individually. Maybe we'll have them on, hopefully free as a group. But if you can, again, help out as soon as possible. It does help signing these petitions, and the folks that need money really do need money. And this is the issue. So you write some software, open source software, to protect people's privacy. You get an opinion letter from a lawyer saying that's okay. Your investor gets an opinion letter from their lawyer saying that's okay. And then they go after you, and it costs $7 million in legal fees. I mean, there's something fundamentally wrong about this process. I've been meaning to do some research on this, but it does seem like we have a breakdown in the political system, but we also have a breakdown in the legal system, to the point where even trying to resolve a civil dispute or a contractual dispute, like, what is the dollar amount that the dispute needs to be to justify even going to court? Right? Like, small claims court or whatever. It's just like, if you're going to spend $30,000 in legal fees, you're not going to spend $30,000 in legal fees to solve a $1,000 dispute. And we've gotten to the point where the legal system is that expensive. It's that completely out of control. Anybody who uses the legal system loses. That's why it's always better to, deal in good faith and have good voluntary relationships. There's a lot more to think through there, though. I've just had it with the legal system and the entire DOJ. I've sent out a couple of links. I'll keep talking for a while because there's certainly no shortage of things to say. I need to do a better job of getting this stuff out. Oh, Roman Storm says, "You're the man. Thank you." And that's again, his story. I hope he can come on. I mean, good news and bad. I don't want him to come on if it would hurt him. I mean, I know Ray came on, and then he had a hearing like 3 days later, and they brought up some of the clips or whatever, transcripts from the interview. I mean, I don't think it necessarily hurt him, but it's just, let's just say I know at least some of the people who are watching this over the years at this point, based on court documents. So I don't want to get anyone into trouble. And in fact, I do want to say I want to separate out. Like, I'm going to have Lauren on next week. I'm not going to talk about the political campaign with Lauren on. So to be clear, like, Lauren is advocating for her husband, and I'm going to bring her on to tell her story. I'll talk about being in war mode here and everything that's going on here. But when I have her on, I want it to be purely from the standpoint of, is a platform for people to get to hear her devastating story. So that's kind of the idea behind that. So I do want to help these people, and I know there's kind of a fine line, but I do believe, unfortunately, I actually was pretty optimistic that something good was going to happen at the Bitcoin conference. I'm not going to lie. But wind was, initially taken out of my sails, and now I'm just pissed. There's, kind of no other way to say it than that. Hey, Deadheaded, how are you? Hello? You there? Hello?
Hi. Probably hear me. I don't know if I can hear you.
Yeah, I can't. That's interesting. Well, can you hear me now? All right. Now I can hear me. Let me try to add you back on. All right. Can you hear me now?
Let me try that.
So Tommy says War Mode would be a great podcast, open-minded comedy and conspiracy podcast, extremely popular on Patreon. Yeah, I'd love to. Can you make an intro? By the way, so I'm going to say this, and I've said this before, and I want to thank everybody who has recommended me on other podcasts. All of the podcasts that I've ever been on have been organic. I don't have a marketing department. I don't reach out to people. I've not, asked to be on podcast. It's literally all been word of mouth. And at this point, that's gone really well. And in fact, to the point where I'm so busy trying to get these sites done, but there will be more podcasts coming up, but I'm kind of focusing on everything for this libertarian conference. So Enemies of the State as well. If you want to attend, we're also looking for sponsors for that. I know I keep on asking for, I don't usually ask for money at all. And now all of a sudden it's kind of like, hey, I've got a whole bunch of stuff you can help fund. But the production is pretty expensive in DC, or excuse me, not DC, in Michigan. And we are doing the live streaming of it. So there's an opportunity, but it's depending upon the circumstance, there are different levels of sponsorship. But for larger sponsors, if you're listening to this and you're an organization, you could potentially sponsor the live stream and actually get in front of hundreds of thousands of people. So so not only are you supporting a cause of amplifying these stories, it's actually going to help, because the demographic of people who are interested in these stories is a good one if you have a privacy product or a crypto wallet or something along those lines.
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine.
All right, good deal. Hey, Aaron, how you doing this evening?
Doing well. How about you?
Good. Good to see you back. Yeah. The surveillance is going to the next level. I've recently picked up a couple of links in there. Have you seen the connections on all the flock cameras?
Have I seen what?
The flock camera AI connections.
Yes.
And it's disgusting. I mean, they're tracking you everywhere. And now with the AI reading your license plate, they're building cases.
Yep, that's one of the lenses. If you go to technocracyatlas.com and you run your state report or whatever, that you'll learn about the extent to which flock cameras are in your state. It is it's a massive problem. And somewhat related to that, I'm about to pop something here on the screen.
Will you see the two links I just dropped you?
Haven't looked yet. Hold on.
One of them is Have I Been Flocked? And there's an organization that does a ton of FOIA requests for all the flock search data. You literally put in license plate if you've been searched. And you can go after the police who have searched you illegally using this. The other one, Don't Get Flocked, which is the flock hopper. Is it'll tell you where all the cameras are, and you can literally put in a start and a destination like the GPS program, and it'll give you a route around all the cameras. So if you want to go to and get a clock, they've got an Apple app. Apparently they've got an Android app soon too.
Yeah, I just put the links in the comments. So if you guys, if you want, check out those links. I wanted to pull something up real quick. I put up a tweet that I put up a tweet that went viral back in the brief window where that was possible. And I don't know if I talked about this or not. Maybe there's a company called Objection that was funded by Peter Thiel amongst others. And here's the idea behind it. It's an AI that grades journalists. So Thiel and the CEO. So you may remember this story where Peter Thiel funded Hulk Hogan's lawsuit to basically take down Gawker.
Yes.
And so Gawker had outed Thiel as being gay, and so Thiel wanted to take them down, and he did this by funding this lawsuit. Well, the lawyer who personally ran the takedown for Thiel, as I understand it, is this guy named Aaron D'Souza. Well, he now has a company called Objection. And anyone can pay $2,000 to trigger a public investigation of any reporter. The investigators are former FBI, NSA, CIA officers. The jury is a panel of AIs from OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, Mistral, and XAI. And the output is an honor index score of the journalist. Anonymous whistleblowers are ranked dead last in the evidence weightings. Corporate emails and government filings are ranked at the top. The idea is what used to take 5 to 10 years in court now takes 72 hours. So I put out this post, got 243,000 likes. They reached out to me. And they said, hey, listen, would you like to do a public debate with our CEO? So what I did instead was I know some people. I reached out to a guy named Barrett Brown. And what I've suggested is, we'd be happy to do a debate, but rather than me do the debate, let's have Barrett Brown as the person representing the alternative side. Now, if you're not familiar with Barrett Brown, I'm familiar with Barrett Brown. Barrett Brown was the public face for Anonymous before Anonymous was basically hijacked. And he was a journalist, highly regarded journalist. He wrote for Vanity Fair, wrote for a bunch of publications. He's won a whole bunch of awards and everything for his writing. And, he got involved in outing a defense contractor or whatever and was arrested and sentenced to 105 years in prison.
Holy shit.
Now, while he was in prison, and this story goes along a lot of different ways, but while he was in prison, he actually ended up doing writing for the Intercept and actually won some awards while he was in there. But Barrett Brown was exposing Palantir in 2011. And actually, according to Barrett, Palantir was behind his being arrested. This guy was a decade ahead of us or more in exposing Palantir, and he was targeted by Palantir. He eventually got a pardon from Biden, but he's now in Mexico, still doing investigative journalism. Just brilliant guy. But he had a video of him being arrested. He was on a live stream, and he was arrested by the FBI. And they claimed he threatened an FBI agent. And there's a whole long backstory. Very, very colorful character. Well, anyway, I reached out to these guys. I said, hey, what do you think about Barrett Brown doing the debate? because this is right up Barrett Brown's alley, right? I mean, obviously, this is a investigative journalist who exposed Palantir, exposed defense contractors, was the PR face for Anonymous back in the day. And so they said yes, gave me the email address. So I have an invitation open, and they claim they're open to the debate. And what we've said is I'll co-host the debate with the folks over at the Free Thought Project, Jason Basler, and those guys. And so we'll see if that happens. Now, I suspect maybe they didn't know. I don't know how they wouldn't know who Barrett Brown is, but it's conceivable that they don't want to debate Barrett. Barrett Brown knows a lot. Barrett Brown knows levels of stuff. I talked to him a couple days ago. He knows levels of stuff about Palantir and Thiel and everything else that, guys, I'm telling you, whatever people are writing about now and talking about now, this guy, again, was a decade ahead of the curve, and he was thrown in prison for life because of it. So I haven't asked him to be on the podcast. I suspect maybe he would do it. I want to actually, I'm reading his book right now. He wrote a book about his experience in prison and everything. And he's actually kind of on the political left. Like he's a very interesting, he's an interesting guy. And I actually think he's a real journalist. Like, and I don't, when I say that, I don't even know what that means. By the way, he told me Intercept was an op. You had Pierre Omidyar, and then he found out that he's working for Peter Thiel. And so he's exposed a whole bunch of that, right? Like there's layers of stuff with this guy. And so,
Peter deeply involved in the Ukraine stuff too, right?
Oh yeah,
Russia, Ukraine.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So whether I have him on or not or whatever, I hope to have him on. I actually want to get fully up to speed to try. This is the kind of thing to have him on. There's like, it's one of those things where somebody has so much more information. It's how do we help amplify his information? Because man, this guy has sources and information. Remember, I mean, Anonymous has been taken over. It's been hijacked. Mm-hmm. But one of the other guys that was arrested at the time, there are 2 documentaries about Anonymous, and I have them both. And so I actually thought he was still in prison. I just learned he was back out when I saw him interviewed on the Free Thought Project. And I'm like, wow, Barrett Brown is like out. So I didn't even pay attention to the fact there wasn't a lot of fanfare, I guess, because people didn't want it to be known that he's out. And so I like this guy, and I recommend that people start taking a look at his work, and he needs to be ample. But I would love to see him debate the CEO of Objection, and they may not do it. And by the way, if they don't do it, I'll just share with everyone. They reached out to me to do a debate. And by the way, I want to say in general, debates are kind of a waste of time. Like it's all performative. Most of the stuff is just, I want an opportunity to be able to say my talking points in front of my friends so that I can strengthen the bond within my group. There's not a lot of good faith discussion. I mean, if you're actually going to try to debate an idea, do it long form, put it in writing, and share the information publicly. So I try not to do a lot of these kinds of debates. But in this case, if I am called to a debate and there's a better person to do it, like, to me, it's not important that I participate in or win a debate. It's important to put the best person forward. And so anyway, I thought you might get a kick out of that.
Yeah, definitely. I'd love to see it. It would be awesome. If it does happen, then of course we'll get notice. Everything seems accelerated. The past month, all this. I mean, I'm seeing it come in from all angles now. The control, of course, this Iran war, crap, whatever is going on. And what is it all? Have you seen on the energy? Are we really could this be? We're going to get everybody off oil because fusion. I don't know if you've looked at fusion, but it's a mainstream talk. Common. We are getting from 0 point. 0 point is a accepted terminology. Now, I see major scientists who write major papers saying yes, this is what.
Well, I think just because a technology exists doesn't mean we're getting it, because this technology has existed for a long time and we haven't gotten it. So we'll see what happens. I'm not optimistic about any of that, because it's never been about the lack of technology. It's been about the complete corruption of government policy and the Invention Secrecy Act and everything else. So if it exists, it'll exist to power data centers to enslave us. It's not going to benefit you and me.
I don't believe these data centers for AI. That doesn't make sense, especially not with the advances in RAM and the new chips that are out. You can get a quantum chip basically now using the Joseph conjunction that are exponentially on 1% of the energy. So the fact that we're building huge data centers to process this energy is ridiculous. Because we're literally Moore's law. We're a year away from having all this the new CPUs and memory out. Just like the new batteries, solid state batteries that will double and triple the power density charge in 10 minutes.
Yep.
This stuff is made it making it now. So why you go get the new RAM right now? It's out. You can buy VRAM or ReRAM. VRAM, I think ReRAM is, and it's exponentially faster and double now, and it's costing anything to make it. It's the same price. So data center 2 years, get a lot of help. The technology, the hardware technology eclipse them. So then really look at because they know that they know more than we do.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm pessimistic not about the technology. I'm pessimistic about the regulation and the access to technology.
Bingo.
I admittedly need to spend some more time on that. Every time you jump on here, I'm like, God damn, I need to look that up, because I know I'm deficient. I know I'm deficient big time.
You're one man.
In that area. And did you see that David Wilcock committed suicide?
Yeah. So all the scientists made some theories on that. It doesn't matter. It's material. I don't know why they would kill him.
I don't think they killed him. I actually, and I've shared a post that I made about this in 2020. Ever since he started talking about insiders and everything else, he's been wrong. He was wrong about every bullshit Q thing. And after a while, it's just like, you have to make up so much more bullshit to bail yourself out about these insiders where none of the predictions come through.
Right.
So my guess is it sounds like he got ripped off and was poor and had mental issues. I actually do not think that there's a conspiracy theory with that. His early work, source field investigations, some of that stuff, those were well researched. I actually read some of that early stuff, and it actually opened my eyes to a bunch of stuff. But the minute he started talking about politics, I knew he was completely out of his element.
Well, I knew who he was. I'd seen him on Ancient Aliens, I guess. I never took that show too seriously, because I've always known. I read him in the news, Bill Cooper's, and everything in the series of heart attack, UFO stuff. I just knew something was off. And he after it came out changed his theory, saying this isn't alien technology, this is human technology that they're hiding from us. And that was about a year before. So I always took the UFO stuff with a grain of salt. Something's just not right about it. And are there aliens? I don't know, but I'm come to I believe about 90 to 95 of what I see in the air and tapes since in Area 51 is human technology. And you can trace.
Well, we should do a prediction on this. So I guess we're about to get some UFO disclosure information from a variety of different sources. I've been seeing this in my feed all week. They're bracing, spiritual leaders and like a long list of. So we're about to get some bullshit. There was some other. Amazon had another alien disclosure movie that everybody from Marco Rubio to everybody else saying, "Oh yeah, essentially we're not alone in the universe and everything else." Like we're getting queued up for something at some new level of inaccurate information.
Yeah. Well, most people are kind of whatever. You're right. That would be to care. We know we've been watching everything, and this just doesn't seem to be a big deal.
Yep. There's reverb on your. Somebody just commented that there is a little bit of.
I think what it is might be speaking up here. Let me see if I can do this. That didn't do it.
Yeah, the person saying they can't understand what you're saying. I'm struggling to. I can hear it, but it is definitely a little. It's not a clear connection.
Yeah. I can try and go out again, but. Is that a little better? Is that any better?
I think.
Oh, that might be.
They're static, but there's not as much background. Well, you talk yet? Yeah, that's better. That is better.
Okay, good deal. And it's funny. I have to use this every day for work in a different app, and it works great.
Got the Enemies of the State website up, enemiesofthestate.net. I'm going to put that in the comments, so if anybody's interested in attending or sponsoring, how do I contact you, Aaron? I mean, you can get me on on X at Aaron R. Day. So that's a good way to just DM me. That'll work, and then once we're connected there, we can connect on Signal.
I got a question. Where can I trade Bandit? Because I can't. It's no longer on an exchange. But I went and hooked my wallet up. They have their token exchange, and they ended up being enough volume.
I have no idea. I don't have any Bandit. Maybe the trade.zano.org.
Yeah, that's where I tried, but there's not enough volume.
Yeah, I don't know. There may not be enough volume. I don't know what to tell you. I haven't really paid attention.
Originally bought it on MFX or whatever.
Yeah,
which is going at 100% KYC now, by the way. So.
Yeah.
I got $35 on there. I can't pull off.
If the Clarity Act passes, I don't know, man. It's people are not paying attention. I'm going to do a push, with this, with these petitions and everything else, and I'm going to start trying to get work some ads. some songs, some 30-second clips, some stuff that'll go viral. I mean, the Howard Lutnick song went viral. I need to do one on the Clarity Act. It's if a song about writing the tariff legislation incorrectly can go viral, then we can definitely come up with something about the Clarity Act.
What's the name of that?
I put it in the comments. I think it's called Cantor Counter. But I'm a huge fan of it. It's great. It's great.
Is it up on YouTube?
It is. I just put it up on YouTube, and all of my sites now, every single one of them has a music tab that's pulling so you can hear. I actually have released 68 songs, so people have not heard that. It's a smaller portion that have actually been converted to music videos, but there are a total of 68 songs that I've released, and you can listen to all of those on any of the sites. The Aaron Day Show, Day 2026, Daylight Freedom, Technocracy Atlas, or if it's not on there yet, it will be on all of them. But yeah, you can get it there. It's on YouTube as well, and Suno. Well, now I can't hear Deadheaded at all. Well, I guess Deadhead had dropped off. I guess I can keep talking for a while. I've sent out a couple of links, but it was, last minute. Actually, it's still kind of early. The show usually goes later, so I know a lot of people jump in later. But yeah, I encourage you to check out Enemies of the State as well, and would love feedback on the Day 2026 site and concept. I do want to get some momentum going now. I think that it's important that people learn about the race and understand the dynamics. I know the strategy is a little complicated, but when you think about Trump, it's not just how he's failed on all of these other things, but look at what's happening. The one good guy that we have in the House is Thomas Massie. And just somebody asked, can I send your podcast to city councils? Sure. Sure, you can send the podcast, but, also, I'm going to put a link, Technocracy Atlas. Atlas.com, where we have maps and show what's going on in every state. So depending upon, I don't know what your particular, if you're talking about city councils in general, if you have one in particular. Now I will say, I don't know, I haven't found, my experience is city councilors really don't care about information. I mean, school boards are usually controlled by teachers unions, and city councils are often controlled by like land developers. But empowering people with this information, but certainly it could be useful to send information about what's going on with data centers and a lot of these other things. Thank you.
You just mentioned that they have a AI system for going after journalists. We should, like Mike, Adams, a health ranger, should put up something for us to go after our local HOA, county, state, federal, how to file this stuff.
That's probably something I'm going to do with Technocracy Atlas. That's actually the next step. So the first step is to get people information, because look, this is what I did in New Hampshire. We built we had a super PAC and everything else, and we were doing this. I had a printing press in my basement. We had a whole phone banking thing. It's occurred to me that now with AI, I could replicate a lot of that, and we could empower. The other thing that you could do is one if you think about things like cell towers, you know, the thing with cell towers is Verizon would just come in and spend a whole bunch of money and put out a bunch of propaganda, bring in some lawyers, bring in some fake studies or whatever, and then the cell towers would go in. And they've got, like, they have a process for it, and it's very hard to do anything about it. But now, if you could empower people to sue and have all the legal work done by AI, you could gum up quite a bit. And so I've been thinking about that as another toolkit. And again, the strategy now is that, you know, I wanted to exit politics completely. The only reason I'm back is because the people that were good at parallel systems were attacked by the political system. So there's almost a, you know, I don't believe that we can fix the political system, but we need to defend ourselves and defend our people. And there's a way to do that without it being like, hey, the solution is the government. It's a way to, you know, leverage their battle amongst themselves over power to get your people free. So here's a comment. Oh, I think this is essentially, it's 15 guys, Yarvin, Elon, Teal, Vance, using AI and tokenization to monitor, control, and weaponize technocratic thing. Structure against ordinary people so that they can never seize or tax their wealth or organize a real revolution. Why do they have such little trust in government and the people? They actually don't have, they don't believe in people or humanity. They actually don't have they kind of have a hatred for humanity itself. There's very much a belief that, and now in some extremes now, it's like where it's gone is with people like Yarvin and everything, it's a reaction to woke, and it's a reaction to equality of outcomes. And so now now they're pitching it as merit, but that there's no dividing line around rights. So the idea behind it is, okay, well, there's a philosopher king. If there's somebody that's better at making decisions about your life than you are, then we should let them make those decisions. There's no respect for natural law. That's the component of it. And there's another aspect of it that's actually merging humans with technology. So there's not a fundamental respect for humanity is what's driving it. I mean, I understand why they don't like government. I mean, look, you know, there's I thought network states were an interesting concept. I think they are an interesting concept, but most of the implementations have been technocracies and with, you know, CEO or dictatorial level power, and so that's what it is. And so that, you know, so their belief is, you know, we're not going to need as many people. We're going to merge with machines. We're going to get to the singularity as quickly as possible. We're all in on acceleration, and there's no deliberation about what the nature of humanity is or discussion of natural law. That's what I've found when you study these guys. Elon Musk, there's a 9-volume science fiction series that kind of, you know, informs what he's doing. And then you look at Nick Land, and, you know, Courtney Turner, who's been on, has talked about a lot of this and has written about a lot of this in detail. So I recommend checking out her work, but it is anti-human. And it's interesting to see play out. It's interesting to watch the lawsuit with OpenAI. People are finally figuring out Elon Musk. I mean, I know on here, I've been talking about Elon Musk and technocracy for a long time, but I mean, people bought this at the election. People bought Doge. People thought he saved free speech, and they bought it even after. Like, it took a long time for people to realize that, yeah, no, this guy does not share worldview. And you know what's interesting is he put out that tweet saying, you know, that Trump is in the Epstein files and that's why they're trying to cover it up. Then he deleted that tweet, and then he doesn't now speak out about anything unless it's technocracy. And I'm fascinated by the fact that my feed went from 80% Iran to 0. And I wonder what is motivating that algorithmic change.
Yeah. Well, it's embarrassing now for Trump. The whole Iran thing is completely. Well, I saw somebody today. He said 31 times we reached a deal, or was that you that said that?
Yeah, literally, it's 31 times, and then somebody's front running every time, and it's like it's a pattern. I talked to a guy today who I don't know if he wants me to name who he is, but hopefully he'll jump on, and he's been analyzing the flows of money and what's going on, and the people are getting ripped off. They're trading this. They're front running the information. It's all fake, and people are making billions of dollars on it, and it's a complete scam.
And you know the central banks are still talking, right? There's a completely open channel to Iran's central bank. I think Catherine Austin Fitz has mentioned that those channels are closed.
Yep.
So
yeah. So I mean, I don't know. I don't actually see information because I'm mostly on social media, and I certainly don't look at mainstream. So I actually have no idea. I'm not that I ever knew, because all of the information was propagandized one way or the other. But the metric that I have is the price of gas, and the price of gas suggests things are not going well.
Exactly. Bingo. In fact, you know how I know it? I watch the Iran stuff. I watch gold, silver, and oil. You just watch those three prices. You can tell, when the news changes.
Yep. Do I trust high universal income as part of the technocratic plan, or is it a scam? It's a scam, and again, this is a critical part of technocracy. So Elon is a technocrat, and he is openly flaunting technocratic principles, and yet when it's somebody else talking about it, people didn't like the idea of UBI. He calls it high universal income, and now all of a sudden people are on board. The problem with this is just it's a trick to get people tied into the control grid. The technocracy is a centralized global system, and they want to entice people into it, and that's how they're doing it. But in the end, once you're captive to it, you lose free will, because the decisions that you can make about your life are all governed by a social credit system that's determined by the technocrats through AI. So it's a trap ultimately. But the thing is, the 9-volume sci-fi thing that I think I downloaded the first book and I haven't gotten to it yet. But
who wrote it?
Huh?
Who wrote it?
I'm gonna have to look this up. I looked it up the other day, and then
better not be L. Ron Hubbard.
No. It's not L. Ron Hubbard. Sci-fi series. Elon.
I actually read his Decology one time.
Oh yeah.
10 volume sci-fi.
It's Ian M. Banks.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the book, and the ideas behind it, and I think Musk has said, because I saw somewhere in a tweet that he was influenced by it, and the whole idea by it is that there's a book called The Culture, which is a post-scarcity utopian anarchist society run by godlike artificial intelligence called minds. And in this model, society is hedonistic, playful, and largely peaceful. And so this is what he's pushing for. This is his kind of end state. I mean, it almost sounds like again, like the Wall-E when they're on the outside of the Earth or whatever, hovering. Everybody's obese in these chairs, levitating around, looking at an iPad. But it's hedonistic based. There's no purpose or growth that's part of it. And the idea behind it is if you reach a point of material scarcity, that's the end state, and that in and of itself is utopia. There's something just fundamentally lacking in the approach. But this is what governs him. Like, again, the thing is, these guys are not, it's not like you have to be like, whoa, what are they actually thinking, or what drives them? I mean, they tell you, and then when you look at it, it's horrifying. But then people don't want to even believe it, even when they say it directly. Like, I remember having to tell people, like, Elon Musk has been a fan of energy credits forever. Elon Musk has stated money will go away and it'll be replaced by energy credits. That is technocracy.
Absolutely.
So the challenge now is, and I said this earlier in the podcast, is we've got to switch from like a lot of this in depth and going to 9 other layers about technocracy to figuring out how to just market, because it's not like we need any more information to know whether technocracy is coming. Knowing more about it doesn't help you build parallel systems. You've got to allocate that energy towards that. But waking people up requires more simplified messages. And I think the AI data centers might be a hook for people, because people don't like these AI data centers. They don't necessarily know entirely why. I mean, there's a component to it that's about water. There's a health component to it. There's a AI replacing jobs component to it. There's a surveillance component to it. But I think it's a gateway for people to understand, oh, wait, what's in those data centers? Who's behind it? How does it all work? And what is the end state? That's when then the light bulb is going to go off. So
that might be a good hook. You might be right about that.
Yeah, I think it's a good hook. And again, part of the issue is there are libertarians who think that it's anti-free market to be against these data centers. But when you look at the regulation and the Trump's policy and the Blackburn bill and everything else, the only AIs that are going to be able to exist, the only data centers are going to be from AI models that are blessed by the DOE, by the FTC, and by Howard Lutnick, and state laws that are, destroyed by Howard Lutnick with the elimination of Section 230 and personal legal liability for developers of AI, which means that you're going to end up not having any competition. The only people that are going to be able to roll out models are big tech. That is so that's what's going in these data centers. And then on top of that, it'll be subsidized by the state. When we did the Ohio podcast that I did with Craig, that's really what prompted me to do the whole technocracy index by the states and everything else. Because once we realized what all is going on in Ohio, I'm like, okay, what's it like everywhere else? And then I wanted to index this and research this going back to 1970. Because one thing that was striking for me was when the CDC put out these maps showing the growth of obesity by state. It was like this color-coded thing, and orange and yellow and red and everything else, and you could see the growth of obesity. And that people understood that. That's a very visual way of doing this. And so when I did this with technocracy, it's kind of like when you start 1973 and then project out where we're going in 2030, it's like, we're in the 9th inning. We're not at the beginning of this. We're not in we're in the late stages of this. And now you can truly see, when I say we've lost 3 years in this second Trump term, I can document it. You can see what's going on with flock cameras in Clearview and Real ID and all this other stuff. It's like, it's undeniable. It's there, right? And so hopefully people will start to wake up. I don't know. It looks like the Clarity Act is going to pass. I don't know. It may not pass, but I mean, the fact that people are celebrating it is just mind-boggling to me.
Well, let's say we get a bunch of people using Xano. What's going to be the government response, and how could they respond?
Well, there's going to be they're going to try to go after it, right? I mean, they've been trying to crack Monero for a long time through Chainalysis. They're not going to like it. They're going to try to crack it. This is why it's a constant game.
Are they going to legislate against it?
Oh, yeah, they'll legislate against it, but the whole point of it is it doesn't matter. If you can't see the transactions, who gives a shit if they legislate?
Yeah, but the stores aren't going to take it then.
Well, Costco won't, but the farmer's market will. I mean, there's a certain point where you've got to get. I was talking to somebody about this afternoon. It's like, I go back to thinking about what was going on with Ravencoin. I don't give a shit about public companies, tokenizing public companies. I don't give a shit about the existence of any of these things. We've got to create truly parallel systems. And at some point, in thinking that way, you have to walk away from the existing systems. It's not where I think Ravencoin and other projects got wrong is immediately was like, oh, well, if we can get institutional adoption of this. No, you're trying to replace these institutions. You're trying to build new institutions. And that's what we have to do. And we have to do it as quickly as possible. And, the odds aren't great, but this is where we're at. Like, there's trying to bridge things makes no sense. Trying to, this has to be all in on building these alternative systems. And look, there's stuff happening to help accelerate this, but I mean, it's not easy. And the reason it's not easy, man, I was at this Bitcoin conference and wow. we're talking some serious brainwashing. And I mean, you talk to people and, you know, they read the Bitcoin standard and they think that that's it. That's their entire understanding of Bitcoin. They haven't thought through that. You know, the thing that I love the most is that somebody will say, well, one of the things I like about Bitcoin is it's censorship resistant. And then you just say, okay, well, name all of the people when approached by the government in a legal proceeding that held on to their coins instead of giving them up. Go ahead, go use AI. Try to find that list. It turns out you can't find any. Well, how censorship resistant is it? Because it's censorship in theory only. It's not censorship resistant at all in practice. And the people, by the way, that have had a lot of theirs confiscated, these are smart people. These are early adopters, not normies. Everybody else is completely screwed. Can Technocracy essentially complete a takeover by 2032 or 36 through executive power, the CIA? You know, look, my theory at this point is that it's not governments. So everybody's sitting around saying, well, we're going to a multipolar world. And people like it's going to be China over here, or maybe it's going to be the BRICS or whatever. It's not. It's like that movie Rollerball. Like it's going to be Palantir and Oracle and OpenAI. This is the way the Trilateral Commission, like all of this stuff has been structured this way. Look at how Palantir has gone from, Palantir's involved in governments around the world, including running the NHS and everything else. That's where all of the power is. They've used trade agreements since the 1970s to weaken national sovereignty. And so the real entities that have control are going to be these technocratic firms. You know, is it going to be through executive power, the CIA? I mean, look, it's going to, so this is what, well, I didn't start out trying to show this. This is what the data showed. It, by the way, shocking, not somewhat shocking to me. So we know that Peter Thiel has been involved in politics in supporting a lot of these like Senate candidates and some of these high profile races for Congress. Well, it turns out he's also funding state political parties and he's getting involved at all levels. And so essentially what happens is this, and you see this in the AI bill. What the technocrats do is they use the government to construct barriers to prevent competition. And then they use state and local level subsidies to fund their projects. And they're doing this at the local level, the state level. They're doing it internationally, and they're doing it through global organizations. So the Board of Peace is now a vector, and the UN is a vector, and the WEF is a vector for this. So it's the driving force behind this. I mean, there may be more people at the top. I know Catherine Austin Fitz was talking to her, and she said, you know, she has this concept of Mr. Global. And, you know, there's some speculation on who Mr. Global is. Maybe it's somebody in Australia or whatever. No one actually knows for sure. But I think Peter Thiel is more of a power player in what's going on. And he is smart. Like the thing is, you know, you take somebody like Klaus Schwab or some of these other people, and they're just, they're retarded. They have bad ideas, but they have no executional ability. Thiel is playing the long game. And, you know, he has, did you, I have to look up what the name of it. There was a place in New York that was set up that Peter Thiel funded, that Curtis Yarvin participated in, where it was kind of like I don't know if I'd call it startup camp, but a bunch of the MAGA people that were involved with Doge were there. They would have meetings. They would have like discussions and speakers and everything else. And Brock Pierce owned the penthouse of this building where all this was happening. And this is where allegedly a lot of the policies around Doge and everything else. So I've been saying that Curtis Yarvin has been driving, and you can see the marketing behind it now. It's clever, right? It's like, okay, rage, retire all government employees. All right, sign me up. But when you realize that they're already that the plan is the 1-2 punches, yeah, we're going to go in and cut bureaucracy, but we're going to replace it with AI. They left out that we're going to replace it with AI part. So they got a whole bunch of people who are pro-constitution and pro-limited government on their side to tear down the bureaucracy, not realizing it was a Trojan horse for technocracy. This was engineered out of many of these ideas were actually hatched, and many people are in the Trump administration from this. I can't remember what it's called. I'll look it up. But this location in New York.
Yeah, they're all in the same club.
No, they're in the same club, but they're pushing. Like they're doing this in New Hampshire. They're trying to push a network state in New Hampshire. Peter Thiel is pushing here, and people are buying it. And I see it's like, okay, let's divide and conquer. Let's rally people around our side. Let's make it a reactionary movement where we're saying that, you know, the only thing is to own the libs. It doesn't matter what the ideology is. We just have to win against the other guys. And it's easy to get people that are repressed or pissed off on board with that, and that's what they're pushing. But it doesn't end well. It's not like that's a new concept.
Oh no. You're just seeing the extremes now. This Brené's psyop going on with COVID has really made a lot of people really ill.
Yep.
You know, I hate Trump, but I can at least say detailed reasons I don't like that. It's not just because I have TDS.
Yep. Lauren Rodriguez just commented. She just said, "Thank you for speaking up for the developers and the activists and speaking out." And so, thank you. I appreciate that. I look forward to having her on. Like, just, you know, again, these stories are heartbreaking, and they never get better. I mean, for some reason, each story is kind of worse. I mean, this is just, you know, a good guy trying to promote our Fourth Amendment rights, right? Like these are like they're upstanding people trying to create things, and then to watch this happen. Like, these are not like renegade people. These are I don't know, man. You'll see when she comes on next week. But this is just another example of I can't, after a certain point, you can barely take it anymore.
Have great success. There's a guy here in Florida, and he went up to Georgia during hurricane to evacuate, and was coming back, and they pulled him over for following too close, and it was completely bogus. And I won't go into details, but through the course of all of this, it's not a lawyer. He's gotten two judges recused themselves, the prosecutor removed, two sheriff's offices under GBI investigation. All his charges completely dropped, and now he has both sheriff's department in default in a civil lawsuit. And now found out they were searching all clock cameras illegally down here in Florida. And he's got three more counties that he's going after criminally for that. And having incredible success. And then I know somebody that got their house raided for a tweet. Not even to a public figure.
In the U.S.
Oh yeah.
What was the tweet?
He lost. He illegally got his house taken one night and had a beer to texted the threatening message to the guy. Now he's to plead out the federal charges.
Wow.
Yeah. A year later, they raided his house. So it really is that simple. It's really the guy during texted Hillary, vote Hillary in a private message chat. I can show you videos where police show up at your house because you said something on Facebook. FBI multiple occasions have done that. So I thank God I love all these first day auditors, First Amendment auditors. I'm waiting for someone that can pick up this block, because using AI on block to read your tag and document all is a Fourth Amendment violation. Clear Fourth Amendment violation. Nobody's challenged it though.
Yep.
So maybe we can get to. I don't know. Tom Fitton got his hands full. He's doing good good work, but you're right. We can vote our way out of this.
So do I think there'll be elections under this technocratic plan? I mean, again, I think it's been an erosion. It's been an erosion of sovereignty over 5 decades, and then at some point there's going to be some crisis, which frankly seems like it's going to come soon, and then they'll offer a new thing out of desperation, and people will take it because they're in that desperate of a situation. But what's important for people to understand is technocracy does not care about these technocrats. Don't care about the Constitution. So people are sitting around saying, well, they can't do that. It's unconstitutional. You have to understand these people actually don't care about the Constitution. They don't care about natural law, and they don't care about individual rights. And it's obvious that the system, these rules are there to contain us, but the elites don't follow these rules already. So it's kind of a situation where it's like they're kind of mocking us, but they don't hold the Constitution or rule of law as important. And technocracy doesn't actually value that. It doesn't value property rights either. It actually views, again, the premise of it is that we're not capable of making decisions for our own lives. We have to have experts do it for us. And that is at the heart of it. Their indoctrination in this is to believe that. It's like the plebs here, if we're allowed to make decisions for our own life, it's a existential risk to humanity. So we have to put these systems in place. And it's playing off a lot of people with egos that are now jumping into this, it's merit-based. And so merit-based goes from having a system where you have a rule of law where you're capable of making money or whatever, becoming successful based on your own talent, to, well, you're meritorious, therefore you should be making all decisions for people. Obviously that's a different type of meritocracy. But I will say, in my opinion, the people that are these technocrats, if you look at their personal lives, these are not people that are experts in the domain of life or are making, good decisions in their own family. So these are not the people these are not philosopher kings. Just because somebody is effective at using technology to accumulate material wealth does not make them a philosopher king. And that idea has been confused.
I mean, you have to look at Peter Thiel's philosophy. The guy thinks he's some sort of, Christian evangelist.
Yep.
And he's murdering, he's enabling the murder of countless innocent people. We know he's doing that in Gaza, doing that in Ukraine, and on every war front there is. You can't tell me Altman has got any morals at all. I think the guy's completely deranged. And any hope that anybody thought Anthropic was good, because they disagreed with the Pentagon, their open source software showed that was a lie. Because that was full of crap.
Yeah. I mean, Alex Karp and that new manifesto or whatever that Palantir came out with, all you have to do is read that and understand, now we have Palantir recommending a draft. Like, at some point, there's just, when is enough, right? Like, how are people possibly justifying this kind of thing?
I don't, and you don't know who's good, there are no at all. I can't think of anything. Yeah, Thomas Massey, but he's not a leader. He's a representative.
Yeah, I mean, do you think he's going to win next week? Or I think it's next week.
No. I mean, well, it depends. I mean, it doesn't matter what the votes are. Every machine is compromised. So the voting machines are complete junk.
Yeah. I just think it's incredible. The people that are supporting Trump and the Republicans at this point, it's like, how bad is the left going to be if you're going to cannibalize? Massey's the only consistently good one in the House. If they're tearing that guy down, you know, I don't know.
That the reason they're telling is a good guy in the house. He's an honest man. They can't have that. You can say Rand Paul. But there's a dozen votes that Rand Paul is caved.
Yeah, I mean, Rand Paul is like, I'm not excited about Rand Paul running for president. He's just kind of, I'm not. It's hard to get excited about that. I remember 2016 when he so-called ran. He actually pulled out the day before the New Hampshire primary. He didn't even get through the New Hampshire primary.
Yeah, that's right.
So I mean, I don't know how that's.
DeSantis is doing some wonderful things down here in Florida, but he's still left the voting sheets. In fact, it's harder to report some things out. And he's still a developer. I mean, he's doing it on homestead tax, getting rid of property tax. But he's bought and paid for.
Oh yeah, I mean he's kind of. Again, we're going to be the only thing that I'm happy about. Again, to me at this point, the way that we should be looking at politics is, can we slow technocracy? But as long as we're viewing it as an allocation of time to slow technocracy while we build parallel systems, if we get caught up in the idea that we're going to turn this whole thing around, then we're going to end up in an unfortunate position. But the fact that J.D. Vance is now losing wind, that's big. J.D. Vance is, not that Marco Rubio is great, but J.D. Vance is a direct puppet of Peter Thiel. Direct. There's no, you might as well just have Peter Thiel directly there.
Well, I can tell you from being a Floridian that Marco Rubio is a complete corporate, but also going back decades.
Who is? Who?
Rubio.
Oh yeah, no, I know. Although my stepmother always said when he was just a whatever state senator, she thought he was going to go really high. She thought that he might be.
He's the partner in my mind, and he's conducting himself perfectly. He's doing a great job. Now, press secretary. He's keeping his name out of the press for negative. He's not having any personal problems. So he always VP. I always thought this was just poking ears. I wish my microphone.
Yeah, the microphone is a little rough.
Automatically adjust. Let's see if this works. Actually sounds a little better, doesn't it?
No, I mean it's static. It's a lot of static.
Is it? I don't. Yeah. Yeah. It's about time for me to back out of here anyway. I got to work early.
Yep.
You said you can take crypto on your donation site.
Yep, I can take crypto. I can take that. Not all cryptos. I can take like 15 different cryptos, privacy coins, and then some of the others. But I refuse to take Tether. I'm not doing it.
That's good. That's good. Do you not have to report this now because you're not officially campaigned?
I don't have to report it until I raise $5,000. Then I have to report it, and I think the rules are whatever, over $200, dollar amounts more than $200. Kind of thing. But don't worry, it's a great thing for you to be associated with the campaign. I encourage everybody to get their name out there and associated with the campaign.
Well, I can't vote for you, but I can support you.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm actually trying to, as we're doing this, I'm trying to queue up a video to play out, and I'm having a hard time loading this. I might have to manually skip through and play this. I want to play this Lutnick song.
All right, yeah. I want to listen to that one. I'm sure I've heard it.
Yeah, so All right. Well, if you're going to head out, hopefully we'll see you next week. I do encourage everybody, please tune in next week to hear Lauren Rodriguez, and I will get all the information on how to support their family, and let's still continue to fight. Again, I hope we can get them out, get Keone out, get William Hill, get all 7 of these guys. It's just we've got to do it. We've got to do it. It's in every one of these are people I want to hang out with. Like it's truly like there's no just these are not the kind of the way that these people are characterized as is like you would think that these are guys that are like, oh yeah, these guys are involved in evading sanctions and everything. Like this is like nothing like their personalities. It's offensive what's happening here. So anyway.
All right, Andy.
All right.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, have a good night. I'm gonna try to find the Lutnick song, and we'll see everyone next week. Bye. Episode 15. We are roll it at the Rose Garden on April 2nd, 2025. Cantor's revenue grew 25% that year. These conflicts are not a gray area. They are disqualifying. Remove him before he writes another rule. This one is called Lutnick. Roll it.
One! Gather round, lads. Gather round, lasses. I've a tale of the commerce man's crooked asses. Howard wrote the number 4 times too high, 0.25 when the truth was a mile away in the sky. His boy at the Cantor counter with a grin, buying up the refund rights while the paper was thin, 20 cents on the dollar. Daddy says hold, while the son's in the back room raking in the gold. Lutnick wrote it 4 times high. Lutnick watched the country cry. Brandon bought the rights on the slide. Cantor took the payday pie. Raise a glass and move your money. Move your money, move your money. Raise a glass and move your money. To the carnival, goodbye. Wrote the letter, Wade and wrote another. Warren lit the fire, Ackman pulled the cover. Wired showed the memo, the scholars showed the math. The Supreme Court rang the bell, 6-3 for the wrath. 180 billion to the people they come, but the Cantor boys were waiting when the deal was done. Transfer to the sons, the divestiture a sham. The house was still a house and the crowd still a scam. Hey! Lutnick wrote it 4 times high. Lutnick watched the country cry. Brandon bought the rights on the slide. Cantor took the payday pie. Raise a glass and move your money. Move your money, move your money. Raise a glass and move your money. To the carnival, goodbye. They'll tell you it was legal. They'll tell you it was clean. They'll tell you divestiture was everything it seemed. But the platform's still the same, and the family's still the name, and the terminal still clears what the Cantor boys arrange. I pulled my money from the bank last Tuesday, put it in a credit union down the bay, buying bread from the baker where the names are owners. Coffee down in Zano where the grid ain't theirs. Neighbor runs the mesh, Co-op runs the bread, building parallel systems while the carnival is dead. Raise a pint to the exit, raise a pint to the door. Howard keeps the carnival, I won't be there no more. Lutnick wrote it 4 times high. Lutnick watched the country cry. Brandon
like took the payday pie. Raise a glass and move your money, move your money, move your money. Raise a glass and move your money to the carnival. Goodbye. Lutnick, move your money. Lutnick, goodbye. Goodbye.
Live free or die, but death's not the worst. It's waking up empty, it's dying of thirst. Trading your days for insurance and pills, while the machine builds your cage and you're paying the bill. Quiet desperation, that's the real grave. A life half lived as a comfortable slave. This ain't what you were born for, you know it's true. You feel it in your chest, breaking through. They're wiring the walls, closing in, tracking your dollars underneath your skin. Left and right, same throne, same crown. No one stands up, no one makes a sound. They hand you a ballot like it means something real. Two wings of one bird, same deal, same steel. We say no, no to the change, no to the dollar running through our veins, no to the white coats, no to the lies. This is the day that we rise. It's hers right here, it's hers right now. Your rights are yours, you take them back, not giving out. Not from the left, not from the right. They were always yours, now step into the light. The daylight breaks, a new day comes. We take it back, every last one. Live free or die, we fan the flame. Nothing will ever be the same.